Chapter 656. Late at night, the Tongtian Gorge was as hot as ever. The October weather was getting more and more depressing. Crack, a bright bolt of lightning streaked across the sky, awakening the people who were sleeping. The ground shook slowly as if in awe. In the sky, it was as if a sharp sword had split open a door. Thunder and lightning struck continuously. Accompanied by a buzzing sound, 7 meteors glowing with golden light descended from the heavenly gate. Boom boom boom, the fireball heavily smashed into the canyon of the Tongtian Gorge, stirring up hundreds of meters of water. The river was instantly cut off. In the ruins, a person wearing strange clothes and surrounded by golden brilliance slowly stood up. They were all between 30 to 40 years old, and each of them looked at everything around them with a divine light in their eyes. Among them, the person with the most extraordinary aura had azure frost fluttering around him. The moment he opened his eyes, the surrounding temperature suddenly dropped by a lot. It was a formless domain, a power that only belonged to gods. This was a god king. He sneered and said, "The shattered cauldron realm. Is this desolate land where a supreme godhead was born? Huang Yi, did you make a mistake?" The hierarch with a battle axe smiled. "Lord Yangli, there's no way I'm wrong. This is the fragmented cauldron realm, and the supreme godhead is in the south." "Humph, you better be right. Otherwise, I'll make you suffer the consequences of losing so much of your cultivation." Yang Li's eyes flashed with anger. Huang smiled awkwardly and did not say anything. At this moment, a fire flickered not far away. It was a group of demons patrolling over. They quickly surrounded the 7 mysterious people. An armored demon roared, "Bakuna, Death Valley." "What's that?" Yang Li sneered, "Is such a lowly creature talking to us?" "Hierarch Pei Sun, can you understand this language?" "No." The scholarly hierarch smiled. "I haven't come into contact with the language of lowly creatures for more than 1,000 years. I've long forgotten it." "Humph, what the hell is that blue soul doing? Our D realm has descended into the mortal realm, but he didn't come to welcome us personally. Instead, he sent a group of low-level creatures to welcome us, the gods of the heavenly realm." Yang Li sneered and said, "Huang Yi, since these low-level creatures are so rude, then I'll give you a chance to exercise your muscles and bones. Get rid of them." Many thanks to God King Yang Li. Desolation was also a divine monarch with a full beard. He swung his battle axe, causing it to buzz. Streaks of blood-red chaotic divine power were infused into the axe. He roared, "A bunch of scums, die." Bang! The battle axe split open the heavy shield and directly smashed the head of an armor demon. It was not over yet. As the light of the battle axe flashed out, the other armor demons behind it also failed to survive. As the chaotic strength raged, the bodies of the armor demons were broken into pieces one after another. Desolation flashed by as his battle axe turned into a cold light. In less than 10 seconds, dozens of armor demons had been turned into corpses. "All right." Yang Li smiled and said, "I didn't expect that killing these low-level creatures could actually awaken the rage in your bloodline. Huang Yi, you're really getting more and more useless." Desolation also laughed, "Sir God King, my race is born to fight. No matter who the opponent is, tearing them apart is the only goal of our clan." "Humph," Yang Li smiled arrogantly and did not comment. At this moment, a bang sound suddenly came from not far away. The spatial wall was opened. Immediately after, an old man wearing a black robe appeared from the crack. It was the demon race Saint Master. "Blue Soul, you're finally here." Yang Li smiled slightly. The Saint Master, who was called Blue Soul, bowed respectfully and said, "God Lan's soul of the lower realm greets the gods of the northern heaven realm. Welcome to the shattered cauldron realm continent." "Cut the crap," Yang Li said, "bring us to see your master." This time, the northern heaven realm did not send us here to let us travel the mountains and rivers of the lower realm. "Yes. Sirs, please follow me." The Saint Master leaped up and quickly flew towards the direction of the god's capital. Behind him, Yang Li and the other 6 gods chased after him at an even faster speed. In the blink of an eye, they overtook the Saint Master. It was clear that the cultivation of these gods was above the Saint Master. The Saint Sovereign could only let out a bitter laugh. If it wasn't for the fact that he had wasted a lot of soul force in order to tame Tang Xiaoxi, he would have already stepped into the 2nd level of the deity realm and become a divine king. Who is it? At night, a group of high-level demons raised their weapons and faced the 7 gods flying in the sky. Out of the way. The Saint Master was afraid that the gods would kill these guards in anger. He quickly waved his hand and pushed the group of guards away with his divine power. The Saint Master waved his hand and said, "Gods, this way please." Yang Li snorted coldly and slowly landed on the ground. The moment he stepped on the ground, his battle boots embedded with unknown gems melted into frost. Only the heavens knew how deep this God King's understanding of the law of frost had reached. The demon race hall had just been repaired. The Demon King stood up from his throne and cupped his fists. "I am Feng Yuan. Greetings, gods. You are Feng Yuan?" Yang Li looked at the Demon King with interest. He smiled and said, "I heard that your race in the Shattered Cauldron realm calls itself the God race? I have embarrassed myself in front of you, God King." The Demon King was terrified. "Forget it. I will not argue with you." Yang Li said, "Tell me, where is the Sovereign Lattice?" "It is in Heaven Connect City 200 miles south of here. The person with the Sovereign Lattice is called Lin Muyu. She is currently only a hierarch." "That's good." Yang Li said indifferently, "After getting the Sovereign Lattice, we will leave. Feng Yuan, you and Lan Han have always been loyal to the Northern Heaven realm. His Majesty the God King ordered me to bring you a gift." "Oh." The Demon King was stunned. At this moment, the elegant hierarch Pei Sun walked forward with a brocade box in his hand. The box was covered with exquisite patterns. After opening the brocade box, a stalk of Ganoderma could be seen. This is. The Saint Sovereign was ecstatic. Could this be the legendary Blood Emperor Ganoderma? "That's right." Yang Li said indifferently, "The Blood Emperor Ganoderma is a treasure of the Heaven realm. There are 2 stalks here. Each of you can have one. The Blood Emperor Ganoderma can improve your cultivation by a lot. Treasure it well." The Demon King and the Saint Sovereign hurriedly knelt down and said sincerely, "Thank you, His Majesty the God King of the Northern Heaven realm." "All right. Get up." Yang Li seemed to be a little impatient. He said, "Where is Lin Muyu? How do you plan to help the Northern Heaven realm obtain the Sovereign Lattice? If I'm not wrong, although Lin Muyu is only a hierarch, her strength is definitely not inferior to a God King. Am I right?" "Yes." The Demon King nodded his head respectfully. Although this Yang Li looked very arrogant, he was obviously not stupid. He knew that he might not be able to escape unscathed from killing Lin Muyu with his own strength, yet he still asked such a question. Thus, he cupped his fists and said, "There is still Ouyang Yen beside Lin Muyu. She is also a God King. Although she has lost her divine lattice and is only a crippled god, her strength is still there. We must separate Lin Muyu and Ouyang Yen and kill Lin Muyu alone. How do we separate?" "I will do it. Lord God King, please rest in Shendu." "All right." Yang Li said, "You have to be quick. His Majesty the God King does not have much patience." "Yes." Sky Connecting City was still brightly lit in the middle of the night. Tens of thousands of workers from Lingdong province were repairing the broken city walls. These workers were recruited from various prefectures and were paid 5 silver coins a day. Although it was hard, they worked hard. Lin Muyu might not have much, but he had a lot of money. The Bronze Helm Mountain mineral vein had brought him an invaluable fortune. Winter Frost City was now extraordinarily wealthy. Although it could not be compared to Lanyan City, Qihai City, or Xiang City, it could still catch up to the level of Divine Shadow City. Lin Muyu stood on the city wall. The divine waves in his body crashed and tempered his body again and again. He could feel his body changing from a human to a god, undergoing a rebirth. Suddenly, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the northern sky as if the sky was torn apart. Moreover, the lightning did not dissipate for a long time. It was very abnormal. Squinting his eyes, Lin Muyu's divine power produced ripples. There were only a few gods in Shattered Cauldron Realm to begin with. Now that a few more gods had entered, it was like throwing a stone into a pool of water, causing ripples that the other gods could feel. Ouyang Yen took a deep breath and said, "It seems that a god from the heavenly realm has descended to the human world." Moreover, he went directly to the demon race's territory. If I'm not wrong, it must be the demon emperor and the sage teacher calling for help from the heavenly realm. Your Highness, if I were you, I would ask the 7 luminaries demon emperor for help right now. It's all right. Lin Muyu looked as if he was not afraid of the wind and rain. He said, "If the god that descended is really strong, I think the demon emperor will take the initiative to attack. He won't sit and watch me get killed." That's not necessarily true. The heavenly realm of the myriad of worlds and stars is divided into 4 major star regions, the north, south, east, and west great celestial realms. Ever since God Emperor Fuxi ascended to sky beyond skies, the eastern celestial heavens has been in constant chaos and disputes until the 7 luminaries demon emperor ascended to become the new ruler. However, the 7 luminaries demon emperor has a lot of troubles to settle, so don't be too full of yourself. It's all right. People always have to rely on themselves. Lin Muyu played it down. Why, Ouyang, are you afraid? Afraid? Ouyang Yen giggled and said, "No, as long as I'm with you, I'm not afraid of anything." Lin Muyu glanced at her and said indifferently, "What are you saying? If teasing me can increase your cultivation, I won't object." "But can it?" "No, but it can make my mood better." Ouyang Yen leaped onto a wooden plank on the battlement of the city wall. She swung her snow-white legs and smiled. Everyone wants to cultivate to become an immortal, but they don't know the loneliness after becoming an immortal. I feel that staying in the human world with you is the only way to truly live. Chapter 657. At night in the Longdan army camp in Heaven Connect City, the war flag was fluttering in the air. Heaven Connect City was too close to the Tongtian Gorge, so Lin Muyu had to station nearly 100,000 troops here, and the magic crystal cannons were set up in great numbers. It was also because of such a lineup that the devil race did not dare to take a step out of the Tongtian Gorge for more than 2 months. Even if there were any, they were just some humans who were responsible for scouting and investigation. Lin Muyu sat cross-legged on the bed in the tent, and the divine power in her body turned into waves, hitting the mortal entrances in her meridians again and again. The biggest difference between a god and an ordinary practitioner was the way they used their power. The power of a god was endless like the waves of the sea, and it was called the waves of God in the cultivation world. Once in a battle, the power of a god was inexhaustible, while an ordinary practitioner was far from being able to use it. However, the cultivation of a god was also very hard. There were a total of 99 heavens in the divine realm, and each small heavens was very difficult to cultivate. Lin Muyu had stepped into the divine realm for nearly half a year, but she had only cultivated to the 10th heavens, and it was difficult for her to advance further. In fact, the cultivation method was very simple. She used the waves of God in her body to hit the meridians, bone marrow, and mortal entrances in her body. The more waves there were, the better. However, the so-called waves of God, each wave was stronger than the previous one, and it was almost exponential. When Lin Muyu launched the 8th wave, she already felt that her body could not bear it, and when she launched the 9th wave, she felt that half of her body was about to explode. When she launched the 10th wave, the supreme being in her high would slowly tremble, and the absorption of power could no longer keep up with the use. Lin Muyu slowly opened her eyes. She was still unable to activate the 11th wave within a minute. It seemed like her cultivation was destined to remain stagnant at the 10th stage Grotto Heaven realm. This was rather depressing, as it meant that the highest level her body could withstand was the 10th stage divine wave. At the side, the space wall not far away slowly opened, and Ouyang Yan's graceful figure appeared. She laid down on the military bed that was next to Lin Muyu's, and laid down lazily. Her fiery red dress flowed down her body, outlining her enchanting curves. She tilted her head and looked at Lin Muyu, and said with a smile, "Don't be dispirited, it's already not easy for you to cultivate to the 10th heavens at this age. You might not know this, but the cultivation after stepping into the divine realm is extremely difficult. Every breakthrough of the heavens requires a lot of cultivation and time. Some ultimate gods, from the day they stepped into the divine realm, haven't been able to enter the second heavens even after hundreds of years. You should be glad." Lin Muyu's body was slightly injured from the impact of the god's tide, so she couldn't continue cultivating anymore. She laid down and asked, "Ouyang, you've cultivated to the peak of the God-King realm. Logically speaking, you should have broken through to the 50th level of the Grotto Heaven realm. How long did you take?" "How long? Let me think." Ouyang Yan pondered and said, "I stepped into the Divine King realm when I was 7,500 years old, and broke through the 30th heavens. When I was 32,000 years old, I broke through the 50th heavens. It has been more than 100 years, and I still haven't broken through." Sigh. "After I was plotted against in the heaven realm and lost my godhead, my current cultivation can only instantly raise the 20th waves of God. The long road of cultivation to me seems to be meaningless. Don't be discouraged, you will get back what you have lost." Lin Muyu comforted her casually, and suddenly opened her eyes wide, and said, "Didn't you tell me that you are only over 8,000 years old? How did you become over 30,000 years old today?" "Ah." Ouyang Yan was a little flustered, and said, "Did I say that I am over 8,000 years old before?" "Yes." Then maybe I am afraid that you will despise me for being an old witch. You stepped into the divine realm at the age of 26, and your appearance will never change. What is there to worry about? Anyway, I am just worried." At this moment, the sound of the wind came from outside the camp, as well as the sound of Situ-sen and Fengshi checking the sentries. Situ-sen said, "Is Her Highness asleep?" The guard, "Yes." Fengshi said, That goddess Ouyang Yan is also sleeping in Her Highness's big tent, right?" "Yes, Your Excellency." "Humph," Fengshi said lightly. "Ouyang Yan was originally just a trader of Iha country of Lingnan. I didn't expect Her Highness to think so highly of her. Sure enough, lust is like a knife above the head." Situ-sen was a little disdainful. "Tisk, Fengshi, you are just jealous of Her Highness." Why would I be jealous of Her Highness?" Fengshi argued. "You are still denying it?" Situ-sen smiled meaningfully. "Let me ask you, even if you, Fengshi, are capable and have slept with all the noble ladies in Lanyan City, have you ever slept with a real goddess?" "Her Highness is asleep." Fengshi pondered for a while and fell silent. It was true that it was easy to sleep with a woman, but difficult to sleep with a goddess, especially a rose like Ouyang Yan who looked unrestrained but was actually covered with thorns. She could only be seen from afar and not played with. Lin Muyu and Ouyang Yan were both in the god state, so they naturally heard everything clearly. Lin Muyu remained silent and pretended not to hear these words. The reason why she allowed Ouyang Yan to sleep in her room was just to let this divine King Huo Wu guide her on her cultivation. As for sleeping with a goddess that Situ-sen mentioned, Lin Muyu really did not think about it, nor was she in the mood to do so. On the other hand, Ouyang Yan laid on the camp bed and looked sideways at Lin Muyu. She smiled like a flower and said, "Look, how others are talking about us." Lin Muyu lay flat and did not look at her. He said indifferently, "A straight body is not afraid of a crooked shadow." "But what if I am not straight?" Ouyang Yan smiled at him flirtatiously and lay down on her back. She kicked the blanket away and said, "I don't care if you have the guts or not. Anyway, I am a deep sleeper. I don't know what you are doing." Lin Muyu did not speak. Her heart was as calm as a pool of stagnant water. This state of mind had been like this ever since Qi Nin died. It was only when she saw Tang Xiaoxi that there was a slight ripple in her heart. But even so, a peerless beauty like Ouyang Yen still made Lin Muyu say in her heart, F***ck, it was late at night. Sleep. Auspicious clouds lingered in the Libei mountain range. There were only mountains and rivers here. Hundreds of beasts ran amok and the terrain was steep. It was a beautiful place with beautiful mountains and clear waters. Because the terrain was rugged and difficult to climb, the Libei mountain range was still an uninhabited area. The Libei mountain range faced the Heaven's Gorge in the east and the Cloud Ridge in the west. It was a unique and otherworldly place. In this remote and uninhabited paradise, the cries of a flock of spiritual sparrows disturbed the tranquility of the mountain. It was a flock of spiritual sparrows with 7 colored wings. There were a total of 10 of them, and each spiritual sparrow had a thin green vine in its mouth. The green vines were knotted together and actually weaved into a simple and crude basket. Inside the basket sat an old man with white hair and beard. He floated in the air like an immortal and held a small shovel in his hand. He smiled and said, "Sparrow, sparrow, over there. Take me there." Chirp, 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 the spiritual sparrow cried and flapped its wings to fly over. It was a stone wall that was tens of thousands of feet high. It was covered with light vines. And in between the cracks of the stone wall, a small white flower was blooming under the moonlight. "I've finally found the holy lotus." The old man couldn't help but be overjoyed. He stepped on the edge of the basket and slowly walked out. As he walked in the void, faint ripples appeared. Waves of divine power enshrouded the surroundings. It was an old man who had stepped into the immortal state. The small shovel dug the soil between the cracks of the stone wall and dug out the holy lotus. This time, the spiritual crane should be saved. The old man smiled happily and held the Saint Lotus in his palm. Suddenly, his eyes were covered with a layer of golden light. Immediately, the Saint Lotus began to tremble. Strands of white medicinal energy rose up and gathered in the air. Moreover, this was an extremely pure medicinal energy. This old man's ability to refine medicinal herbs had most likely reached the realm of divine transcendence. In the Great Qin mountain range, who else but Chu Chu could have such a cultivation level, could communicate with birds and beasts, and could bless all living things? Apart from Chu Chu, who else could have such a cultivation level, who could communicate with birds and beasts, and who could bless all living things in the world? After refining the medicinal essence, Chu Chu dove down from the sky. His entire body was like a meteor as he fell into the valley. After piercing through the clouds, he landed in between the stone walls of the mountain range. Under a group of short green pine trees, a spiritual crane with a broken neck was lying there, whimpering. Its neck had been pierced by a sharp arrow, and the injury was extremely serious. If it wasn't for its innate intelligence, it would have already died. Chu Chu opened his hand and grabbed the arrowhead. Suddenly, a hidden force appeared in his palm, and immediately, the arrow broke into pieces. Just as the spiritual crane's blood was about to spurt out, Chu Chu lightly spat out fire energy from his palm. At the same time, he poured all the medicinal essence of the holy lotus onto the spiritual crane's wound. The cooling medicinal essence not only soothed the pain but also healed the injury. For a moment, the spiritual crane actually let out a happy cry and spread its wings towards Chu Chu. "Ha ha ha, it's good that you're all right." Chu Chu gently stroked the spiritual crane's head, his face full of kindness. At this moment, a few sparrows flew through the clouds and flew over. They chirped loudly in Chu Chu's ear and flapped their wings with all their might. In the blink of an eye, Chu Chu seemed to have understood something. His expression turned cold as he faintly said, "The demon clan. They've gone too far. They killed Xiao Yin 5 years ago, and now they want to kill you too." However, Chu Chu's ideal life was to roam the mountains and live a carefree life. That was the kind of life he wanted. It was also this kind of carefree state of mind that allowed him to cultivate a heavenly Tao grid. Currently, he had broken through the 29 heavens realm and reached the ultimate God realm. 5 years ago, when Qin Yin was mistakenly killed by Tang Xiaoxi, he was thousands of miles away and could not reach her. However, Things were different now as Lin Muyu was thousands of miles away in heaven-connecting city. It was only half a day's journey away. All right. Chu Chu stretched out his hand and slowly pushed away a flock of birds with an invisible force net. He smiled and said, "Little fellas, I'm going to the lower domain to settle some things. Wait for me here, I'll be back." Chirp chirp chirp. The birds sounded like they were chirping happily. Swoosh. Chu Chu's figure moved and flew into the distance like a meteor. However, his direction was not heaven-connecting city, but heaven-connecting gorge. Chapter 658. Early in the morning, birdsong could be heard. In the mountains behind Fairy's capital, there was a garden that occupied a part of the landscape. Autumn was coming, and the maple leaves were red. The weather was cool in the morning. In a spacious room on the east side of the garden, a young lady in a red and white dress sat on the windowsill. She looked at the birds flying in the forest in the distance and sighed. Who am I exactly? Tang Xiaoxi stared blankly at the dew dripping down the windowsill and murmured, Who is that person? Lin Muyu. Who is he to me? Why do I have such a strong feeling for him? Why can't I do anything to him? I'd rather die than hurt him. Why? At this moment, knocking sounds could be heard. Someone was knocking on the door. Tang Xiaoxi looked over and asked, Who is it? It's me, Feng Ning, Feng Ning, voice came from outside the door. Come in. Tang Xiaoxi raised her palm and opened the door with her divine power. Feng Ning, was dressed in a white dress and looked like a beautiful angel. Behind her were two maids who were holding plates of fruits, food, and soup. She walked in with a smile and said, Princess Shi, it's time for breakfast. I don't feel like eating. Thank you, Ning, You're welcome. Feng Ning, walked closer to the windowsill and looked at Tang Xiaoxi's lonely expression. She couldn't help but feel sorry for her and said, Are you all right? I'm fine. Tang Xiaoxi looked at Feng Ning, For more than a month, Feng Ning would visit her almost every day. He was also the only person she could talk to. She said, Your Highness Ning, are you my friend? Of course we're friends. Have you forgotten, Princess Shi? When we were in Lanyan City, you often came to visit me too. Then, can I ask you something? Tang Xiaoxi murmured. Sure, Feng Ning, glanced behind her and said, Put down your things and leave. No one is allowed to come in without my permission. Yes, your highnesses. The maids bowed respectfully and left. Now, ask away, Feng Ning, smiled and jumped onto the windowsill, sitting there foolishly like Tang Xiaoxi. Who am I? Tang Xiaoxi asked. Who am I? Tang Xiaoxi asked. I mean, my other identity. Tang Xiaoxi looked at her deeply and said, The other identity that I have forgotten. Who exactly am I? You're Tang Xiaoxi. Great Qin Empire's auxiliary princess. Then, who is of Lin Muyu? His Royal Highness, Prince Qin. Feng Ning hesitated. What, is it inconvenient to say? No. Feng Ning bit her red lips and said, He is a person who would risk his life for you, but 5 years ago, you personally killed his lover. Then, what's my relationship with him? You have to ask yourself, Feng Ning said softly. Tang Xiaoxi suddenly felt a sharp pain in her head. She couldn't help but hug her knees, burying her face in her skirt. I can't remember who I am, why is it like this? Sacred teacher ordered me to kill Lin Muyu, why is it like this? Feng Ning, gently held her shoulders but did not know how to comfort her. In the past few years, Tang Xiaoxi, Lin Muyu, and Qin Yin had experienced too much and tasted the joys and sorrows of the world. But what could they do? This was the world. Everyone was like a chess piece, controlled by the changes in the world. Feng Ninger had long given up hoping that Lin Muyu would love him. His only wish was that the heavens would not torture him anymore. Even for Lin Wuyu defeating the demon race, Feng Ninger could not hate her at all. At this moment, a gentle and penetrating voice came from outside the door. "Excuse me, is Highness Shi here? I am Pei Sun, and I seek an audience with Highness Shi." Again? Feng Ninger frowned. These days, Pei Sun had been running to the palace in the back mountain more and more frequently. Anyone could see that Pei Sun had fallen in love with Tang Xiaoxi the first time he saw her, but Feng Ninger actually felt inexplicably resistant to Pei Sun's pursuit of Tang Xiaoxi. Perhaps, in the depths of her heart, Tang Xiaoxi only belonged to Lin Wuyu. No one else was qualified to touch Tang Xiaoxi. However, Pei Sun was one of the 7 Empyrean gods in the mortal world after all. Even if they didn't give him face, they still had to give face to the powerful deity King Yangli. Even the demon emperor and the sacred saint were very respectful to these 7 Empyrean gods, let alone others. "Come in, Lord Pei Sun." "Yes." After pushing the door open, Pei Sun carried a bamboo basket filled with freshly picked fruits. In addition, there was a bouquet of unknown flowers on top of the basket. Immediately, a strange fragrance filled the room. "So Highness Ninger is here too." Pei Sun smiled. Then, as if ignoring Feng Ninger, he walked forward and bowed elegantly to Tang Xiaoxi. "Pei Sun greets Highness Shi. I have brought fresh wild fruits from the mountains and a bouquet of flowers that have just bloomed. I hope that Highness Shi will be in a good mood today." "Thank you, Lord Pei Sun." Tang Xiaoxi was still hugging her knees as she sat there silently. She looked at the magnificent mountains and rivers outside the window and said, "If there is nothing else, please return, Lord Pei Sun. I would like some peace and quiet." Moreover, Lord Pei Sun is from the heaven realm and is busy with official business. "I will not stay any longer." Pei Sun was slightly embarrassed and said, "Highness Shi, if you are not in a good mood, Pei Sun has a good suggestion. There is a waterfall at the back of the mountain. The sound of water is murmuring. Why not Highness Shi ride a horse under the waterfall? I am willing to accompany you." "No need. Thank you," Tang Xiaoxi said indifferently. Then, Pei Sun cupped his fists helplessly and said, Then I will take my leave. I will come again tomorrow. I will not send you off. Take care, Lord." "Yes." After leaving the door, Pei Sun's handsome face was filled with embarrassment. Huang, who was guarding outside, couldn't help but laugh. "It seems that the door has been shut in my face again. Ha ha ha. Pei Sun, you are a god from the upper realm, but you can't do anything to a woman from the lower realm. When you return to the northern heaven realm, you will definitely become a laughing stock." "Ha ha ha ha, shut up." Pei Sun looked at him coldly. His entire body was enshrouded in light. He looked at Huang with the power of the law of light. Huang was speechless. Although he was well versed in the law of chaos, Pei Sun's light sword and light shield were very powerful. It was better not to provoke him. Huang rubbed his nose and said, "Actually, you don't need to waste your energy. If you really like Tang Xiaoxi, you can just go to Feng Yuan and ask for her hand in marriage. Tang Xiaoxi is his 3rd daughter. As long as you ask for her hand in marriage, would Feng Yuan dare to refuse? A melon that is forcefully picked won't be sweet." Pei Sun loosened his clenched fists and said, "But I will not give up. I will wait until the day Tang Xiaoxi is willing to accept me." Huang also frowned. "You genteel people are really troublesome. Things between men and women are so simple. Isn't it just taking off your pants and riding on top of each other? Yet you romantic people make it sound so poetic. Humph, you're simply unreasonable." Pei Sun looked at him coldly. "Why? Do you want to have a taste of the holy sword of light again?" "Humph." Huang couldn't help but tremble and said, "Let's go. Sir Divine King Yangli is summoning us. You can't delay important matters for a woman, can you? Let's go." The two leaped up and disappeared at the same time. Crackle, crackle, lightning spread in the air. In the blink of an eye, Pei Sun and Huang appeared in the main hall. They saw Demon Emperor Feng Yuan sitting high on the throne. Sage Master and Qianfeng stood on his left and right. Yang Li stood below the steps with an extraordinary aura. Although he was a divine king, his strength and status were far above Feng Yuan's. Yang Li didn't overpower him. After all, he knew that he was in the lower realm. No matter what he did, he had to rely on Feng Yuan's strength. Pei Sun said respectfully, "Divine King Yang Li, what matter do you have for summoning us?" Yang Li looked at him deeply and said, "Did Lord Pei Sun go to visit Tang Xiaoxi again?" "Yes, it seems. Lord Pei Sun has forgotten why His Majesty Divine King sent us here." "I don't dare to forget." Pei Sun was so frightened that he trembled all over. "It's good that you haven't forgotten." Yang Li raised his brows and said, "All right, it's time for us to get down to business. Lin Muyu is in Heaven Connect City. We should take action. But the God's sealing stone has not been completely cast. It will take half a month." Pei Sun had a respectful expression and continued, "If we take action now, even if we kill Lin Muyu and obtain her supreme godhead, I'm afraid that half of the godhead's divine power and potential will dissipate because of the master's death. We must use the God's sealing stone to seal the godhead. This is His Majesty Divine King's order." "I know." Yang Li was a little impatient and said, "But we still don't know Lin Muyu's ability. This low god with a supreme godhead can't be underestimated. I plan to test Lin Muyu's strength first. How about the two of you support me?" "Yes, Lord." Yang Li turned around and looked at the Demon Emperor, Saint Master, and the others. He asked, "Feng Yuan, Lan Han, and Qianfeng, do you have any good suggestions? When is the best time for me to test Lin Muyu's strength?" The Demon Emperor looked at Qianfeng. Qianfeng knew Lin Muyu's habits the best. However, at this time, Qianfeng's face was solemn and his brows were tightly knitted. He did not say a word. It seemed that he had always been against the idea of Yang Li and the other upper universe gods assassinating Lin Muyu. After all, it was an unfair duel. Was it fair for a divine king who had cultivated for millions of years to assassinate a young ultimate god in his 30s? Ahem. The Demon Emperor coughed. At this time, Saint Master cupped his fists and said, reporting to Lord Yang Li. Although Lin Muyu has been living in the Longdan army camp in Heaven Connecting City, he would go to the mountain stream 10 miles north of Heaven Connecting City every evening to drink his horse. It's his habit. There are only a few dozen guards accompanying him. Lord can take this opportunity to meet him. All right, please lead the way for me, Lord Lan Hun. I'll be delighted. Chapter 659. When the sun was setting in the west, it became more and more boisterous outside Heaven Connect City. This city, which was constantly being rebuilt, attracted a large number of merchants. Countless timber merchants and stone merchants gathered here, looking for business opportunities everywhere and bargaining loudly with officials and officers of the Longdan army camp. Under the rule of Emperor Qin, the country was civilized and democratic. Everyone was equal, so the merchants became more and more daring. Even many wandering mercenaries and hunters stopped in the temporary wooden hotels outside Heaven Connect City, listening to girls playing and singing with horsehead zither and buying a night of drunkenness with the copper coins exchanged for prey and tasks. People seemed to have forgotten the past that the demon tribe had once wreaked havoc here. They felt that as long as Emperor Qin's Longdan army camp was still stationed here, the world would be at peace and the demon tribe would not dare to invade the human territory anymore. In the Battle of Heaven Connect Province, Emperor Qin's Lin Muyu defeated the main force of the demon tribe and forced them to return to the narrow Heaven Connect Gorge. In the empire, Lin Muyu had become the synonym of the god of war. Her reputation had been firmly above that of Feng Jixing, Xiang Yu, Qin Yan, and others. When the news of the victory spread back to Lanyan City, it celebrated for 3 days. The defeat of the demon tribe also meant that the power struggle on the continent finally came to an end, and the empire ushered in the long-awaited peace and prosperity. However, the expeditionary force of the Longdan army camp still lived a very poor life. In the battle with the demon tribe, nearly half of its troops were lost. Therefore, replenishing the troops became the top priority of the Longdan army camp. As a result, there was a temporary recruitment station every 5 miles outside Heaven Connect City, responsible for recruiting adventurers and mercenaries to join the Longdan army camp and become soldiers of the empire. It could not be helped. The troops in Lingnan and Lingbei provinces were also short of manpower. Lin Muyu could not rely on Feng Jixing and Qin Yan for everything. These two kings also worried about Lingdong province. It was said that Feng Jixing even took out his wife's money to buy weapons and equipment to supplement the needs of the Longdan army camp. Now, he washed his face with tears in the prince's mansion in Xiang City every day. He felt that he could not marry a wife in this life for the sake of his brother. In the north of Heaven Connect City, more than a dozen intersecting roads led to the forests and counties in the distance. There was an endless stream of pedestrians on the roads, including merchants and adventurers. A row of taverns along the way were already filled with customers. Many of them began to eat here to replenish their strength, then spent a few copper coins to buy some low-quality ale to get themselves drunk. Outside the tavern, a group of mercenaries with battle axes and spears on their shoulders led their skinny horses forward slowly. They were all looking into the tavern, but they had no money in their pockets, so they could only stare at the tavern. In the crowd, a middle-aged mercenary with a dagger on his waist said indifferently, "If this mission is not completed, we can only starve." But it is not so easy to kill a 1,000-year-old spirit beast of the fire attribute. Those old men in Yanming County don't know how powerful spirit beasts are. The man with a battle axe on his shoulder scolded, "They only know how to touch the maids as **** in their blue-tiled houses all day. How would they know that we hunt spirit beasts with our heads on our waists? What are you grumbling about?" The middle-aged mercenary sneered, "If we don't have the lives of old men, then we can only accept our fate. Let's go, we will set up camp outside the forest. Tonight, we will just eat flatbread. As for tomorrow, whether we can eat meat or not depends on whether your axes are accurate." "Yes." At the recruitment station set up by the road, a thin and weak recruit hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Warriors, since you are going into the mountains to hunt, why don't you join the Longdan army camp? Be a warrior fighting for the honor of the empire." "Pfft, get lost." The mercenary with the battle axe said coldly, "The honor of the empire can fill my stomach and give me a woman. If it can't, then who are you trying to fool? Only a fool would work for those idiots. Shut up, before I get angry and split your head open with my axe." The recruit was speechless and did not dare to say anything else. The mercenaries along the way were not easy to deal with. After all, they were all masters of blood. At this moment, a person wearing the armor of a high-ranking military officer rode past. It was Lin Muyu. The 3 imperial gold stars on her collar were shining brightly. The recruit hurriedly walked to the side of the road and saluted, "Your Highness, Emperor Qin." Lin Muyu smiled cheerfully, "Thank you for your hard work." "Yes." "No. It's not hard at all." "Thank you, Your Highness." The recruit was so excited that his face turned red. One of the legendary 4 heroes of Lan and Yen, Emperor Qin, Lin Muyu, actually spoke to him and even consoled him. He was the legendary hero of the empire who turned the tide. Such a legendary hero actually spoke to him. The recruit stood there happily. His heart was filled with joy. The unhappiness of being insulted by the mercenary just now was swept away. He watched Lin Muyu leave with dozens of cavalrymen. He knew that Emperor Qin, Lin Muyu, would pass by here almost every day at this time. He would go to the mountain stream to drink the horses and wash them, but he rarely stopped to talk to anyone. Less than 5 kilometers away from Tongtian City, a continuous mountain range appeared in the forest. There was a mountain stream between 2 low hills. The water was gurgling, and the grass on both sides was very fertile. Lin Muyu dismounted and walked over with Takshu. Takshu was born from Tang Xiaoxi's snow pear. It was a gift from Qin Yin. These 2 confidants only left it as a memento. Therefore, no matter how busy Lin Muyu was, she would personally wash Takshu every day. Lin Muyu led the horse into the shallow waters of the mountain stream and used a brush to scrub the horse's fur repeatedly. Takshu snorted happily and used the horse's hooves to step on the water, splashing all over Lin Muyu. The group of guards on the shore laughed out loud. Bai Yin also led his horse to wash it. He asked, "Your Highness, I heard that you've been living with Ouyang Yen recently?" There were not many people in the Longdan army camp who dared to joke with Lin Muyu like this. Bai Yin was one of them. After all, he was a loner. He was a criminal wanted by the imperial court and did not care about his life anymore. "Who said that?" "I didn't touch her," Lin Muyu retorted. However, after she finished speaking, she felt that her rebuttal was too weak. It was as if she had not said anything at all. Bai Yin chuckled and did not say anything. A few minutes later, the flowing water in the mountain stream suddenly became much slower, as if it had been cut off by someone. Lin Muyu could not help but frown. He raised his head and looked upstream. Just as he was looking, he saw a person with a profound aura standing above the mountain stream. The divine power under his feet had blocked the entire stream. This person must be an extremely powerful cultivator. He could actually get close to Lin Muyu without making a sound even though he had released the spiritual pulse technique. His cultivation was definitely above Lin Muyu's. "You're Lin Muyu?" The person had a faint smile on his face. "That's me." "Who are you?" Lin Muyu put down the brush that was brushing the horse. He raised his hand and casually pulled out the star's sword. His movements were slow, but it made people feel that he was extremely firm and calm. The person on the mountain stream smiled coldly and said, "One of the divine kings of the northern heaven realm. My name is Yang Li, you're the god who came to the broken cauldron realm a month ago, right?" "That's right, that's me." Yang Li smiled and said, "I heard that you're very strong, so I specially came to have a look. Lin Muyu, you must duel with me without holding anything back. Otherwise, you will die." As he spoke, frost with a radius of tens of meters flew up from Yang Li's body. In the blink of an eye, everything in the upper reaches of the mountain stream was frozen, as if it was a harsh winter. Lin Muyu naturally knew how powerful it was. He handed the reins of the war horse to Bai Yin and said in a low voice, "Bring everyone back to the camp, immediately." Bai Yin did not intend to disobey. The feeling that Yang Li gave him was that of a crushing existence. In fact, as long as Yang Li was willing, a divine king's telekinesis power could kill Bai Yin. "Your Highness, what should we do?" a group of guards said angrily. Many of them had been following Lin Muyu since Lanyan City. Even if they died, they were unwilling to leave Lin Muyu here alone. "Go, this is an order." Lin Muyu waved his hand and said in a low voice, "I'm fine, don't worry." "What are you waiting for? Let's go." With a shout, Bai Yin led everyone on the treading snow warhorses and galloped away from this place. Yang Li did not stop them. A few more people appeared behind him. They were all godly venerable level cultivators, and one of them was a saint master. Lin Muyu's heart immediately sank. They did not come with good intentions. Moreover, there were so many of them at once. Unless she was a god emperor, how could she escape? Yang Li seemed to see through Lin Muyu's thoughts. Ice and snow rapidly circled around his arm and condensed into a frost sword. He smiled and said, "Don't worry, these gods are just here to support me. They won't make a move. Also, you don't have to worry that I will kill you. As long as you don't die after exchanging 10 moves with me, I will let you go." 10 moves? Lin Muyu frowned. It had been a long time since she heard such words. How long had it been since someone spoke to her so arrogantly? However, Yang Li had the qualifications. The divine power of the law of ice seemed to freeze everything, turning the surroundings several miles into winter. This was a divine king with a forged immortal fate. In an instant, the divine power of the frost divine power reached up to 50 layers of grotto heavens. This was not something that Lin Muyu's mere 10-layer grotto heavens could compare to. However, Lin Muyu's advantage was the tyrannical strength of her sovereign personality, as well as the power of the stellar art and 7 luminaries. She had to give it her all. Otherwise, she might die here today. Since there was a promise of 10 moves, she would strike first. Buzz! The stellar sword began to hum and tremble due to the concentration of divine energy. Streams of stellar energy gathered in the sword and turned into a freezing cold chi. Lin Muyu moved her feet and turned into a bolt of lightning, charging straight at the divine king. Her instantaneous movement speed was so fast that even Pei Sun, Huang Yi, and the others were dumbfounded. This lower realm god really lived up to his name. This kind of speed. Even in the heaven realm, it was extremely tyrannical. It was a pity that his opponent was a well-known figure among the Northern Heaven Realm divine kings, Yang Li. Chapter 660. First Appearance of the Stars. A dazzling radiance flickered on the star's sword, and an endless amount of supreme god energy gathered on the blade. There was a total of 10 waves, and each wave was stronger than the previous one. Come at me. Yang Li laughed brazenly as he brandished the frost longsword in his hand and swept it horizontally. Frost swirled around the blade, and layers of ice attribute god energy gushed out like a river bursting through a dam. Bang! An incomparably violent cyclone burst forth with the two of them as the core. The wind caused the Saint Sovereign and the others to have to use their god energy to stabilize themselves. The two people at the core of the collision were incomparably shocked. Yang Li's palm that was holding the invisible sword felt a little numb. Lin Muyu's attack contained an endless amount of star energy, and it seemed to be able to deal a certain amount of damage to a god's body. However, when the power of the initial appearance of the starlight splashed out, the layers of golden protective walls around Yang Li blocked the energy one after another, creating ripples, divine wall. Yang Li was actually a god that comprehended the god wall. Lin Muyu complained incessantly, and the star's sword transmitted the vibration of Yang Li's attack. The attack of a god king was extremely terrifying, and layers of frost waves swept over, crashing against Lin Muyu's body and spirit. Furthermore, there was a total of 57 waves, and within half a second, all of them were spat out together with this attack. In an instant, Lin Muyu was forced back. PFFF, a cyclone mixed with water spun on the ground, and Lin Muyu was forced back nearly 10 meters. There was a deep ravine under her feet, and all the cobblestones on the ground were turned into powder by the collision of the two gods' power. The stream behind Yang Li was completely frozen, and it was enough to show how terrifying this god king's power was. Not bad, a trace of killing intent flashed across Yang Li's eyes. He shook his wrist that was numbed by the first appearance of the stars and smiled. Never thought that there would be someone in the lower realm who could receive one of my attacks without getting injured. Not simple at all. Lin Muyu furrowed her brows tightly. She stood several tens of centimeters above the ground and quickly soothed the impact of the frost divine power in her meridians. The frost on her entire right arm also quickly shattered, proving that she still had the strength to fight. However, this Yang Li was a little too powerful. He was actually able to unleash a 57-wave attack. This meant that he was already close to the peak of the God King realm. Perhaps he only needed an opportunity to step into the ranks of the God Emperor realm. How terrifying was the strength of such a person! At the same time, the sacred master who was standing on the hill was also shocked. He was well aware of Lin Muyu's strength. If there was no one to help him, he might not even be able to receive 5 of Lin Muyu's moves and be killed. But in front of him, Lin Muyu was actually in a difficult situation after receiving Yang Li's first move. Perhaps after Yang Li's 10 moves were used up, Lin Muyu would be a dead god. Pei Sun, Huang Yi, Zhou Shi, Lu Jin, Zhu He, and Chang Fan, the 6 gods from the Northern Heaven realm, were much calmer. In their eyes, this was a battle that could be imagined. They were very clear of Yang Li's strength, and Lin Muyu was just a beginner god of the first heaven of the god realm's 10th paradise. The disparity in strength between the two could be said to be like heaven and earth, and the outcome was already very clear. Pei Sun raised the corner of his mouth and said, "It seems that the owner of the sovereign lattice is only a so-so." Huang Yi raised his battle axe and said coldly, "However, to be able to exchange moves with divine King Yang Li, he can be considered to be capable." If it was any other god, I'm afraid that he would have been killed in the first move. The sacred master was silent, and the expression on his face was very ugly. On the other hand, Yang Li was somewhat proud of himself. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth and he said, Lin Muyu, if you admit defeat, kneel down and kowtow to me 3 times, then I will let you go. Today, I will not make things difficult for you, how about it? Kowtow your grandma. In the face of mockery, Lin Muyu had always fought back confidently. With a light flick of his wrist, a golden gourd vine came out of his body and quickly disintegrated, fusing with the god-binding chains in his left hand. In the blink of an eye, it converged into a 7-luminary celestial sword that was added to the star's sword. It seemed that all the gods in the heaven realm disdained to use their martial souls, but Lin Muyu was different. The dual martial soul fusion was one of his trump cards. Just now, he did not use his martial soul, so he was forced back. This time, he would know who was better when he tried again. Leaping up, Lin Muyu's body stopped in the air and looked down at Yang Li. The power of the stars in the sky continuously gathered on the longsword, turning into blood-red rocks and stardust. This move was the prelude to the 5 mountains descend from the heavens. Interesting. Yang Li raised his head and looked at Lin Muyu. He couldn't help but burst into laughter. Looks like I have no choice but to use my true power. Come, I'll let you have a taste of the extreme frost realm. As he said that, Yang Li suddenly waved his right hand. The long sword seemed to have pierced through the plane's wall, and a huge crack appeared on his right hand. Inside the crack, there was a magnificent scene of snow in a foreign world. Thousands of miles of snow were fluttering, and the world was frozen. Endless power of frost was gathering. This divine king was actually directly absorbing divine power from the foreign world. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be stunned. No wonder Yang Li didn't use his martial soul, because he didn't need it at all. Come. Yang Li switched from defense to offense, and took the initiative to attack. His longsword swept towards the sky, bringing with it flowers of terrifying icy light. In an instant, the entire space seemed to be frozen. Lin Muyu had never felt such cold before, and she almost couldn't move her arms. At the moment of imminent peril, she suddenly let out a roar, and the Supreme Being Lattice's golden light shone brightly. A powerful fire intent broke through the frozen space, and the 5 mountains descend from the heavens also slashed down. Boom! The earth trembled, and the stellar energy and frost collided violently. In an instant, the air and the surroundings exploded. The collision between the 2 high god experts was too frightening, and even the ground started to crack. Deep trenches that were several meters wide appeared, as if the end of the world had arrived. The stellar energy of the 5 mountains descend from the heavens continuously clashed with Yang Li's frost. This was a contest of strength. The Supreme Being Lattice in Lin Muyu's Yi seemed to have sensed the appearance of a strong enemy, and it tried its best to generate divine power to assist in the battle. However, there was still a huge disparity in strength between them. Explosions sounded in the surroundings, and it was the collision between the waves of gods. The sound was very dense. Lin Muyu's 10 layers wave could only withstand Yang Li's 32nd layer grotto heaven wave, and she had to rely on her body to withstand the next 25 layers. Bang, bang, bang. Within a second, the impact of the waves completely tilted on the dragon blood battle shield, and it was like a concentrated ice arrow bombarding it. Lin Muyu had never experienced such strength before. The dragon blood battle shield was instantly shattered, and he slid back dozens of meters to avoid the aftershock of Yang Li's attack. He felt a sweetness in his throat, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he tried his best to hold it in, and his Yi and Qi Si merged together to quickly recover the damage to his body. Yang Li held the long sword condensed from frost and frowned. He originally thought that this attack would be enough to seriously injure Lin Muyu, but he did not expect that it would not be able to do anything to him. This was an attack that he used 80% of his divine power. How strong was this brat? He was actually able to challenge a divine king from the upper worlds without showing any signs of losing? Lin Muyu was still hovering in the air, and divine power shone around him. The 12 spirit beads of law had already appeared, and he did not hide the fact that he had the Supreme Being lattice. He also knew that it was useless to hide it. This group of people was most likely here for his Supreme Being lattice. If he was not careful, he would also end up like Ouyang Yen. How much time do you need to recover? The corner of Yang Li's mouth curled up. He seemed to have noticed that Lin Muyu still suffered some internal injuries, and said, "I'll give it all to you." "No need," Lin Muyu said firmly. The tyrannical strength of the Supreme Being lattice lay in the super-fast recovery speed. If his power was damaged, so would Yang Li's. Since that was the case, there was no need to wait for too long. He leaped up and raised his palm in the cold wind. A purple sun quickly condensed, and the purple sun shakes the earth was about to descend. Good heavens, after seeing the purple sun's radiance, Yang Li actually felt an inexplicable timidity in his heart. However, half a second later, it was completely swept away and replaced with arrogance and haughtiness. Raising his longsword horizontally, countless frost flew around him. This was the first time Yang Li had adopted a completely defensive stance since the start of the battle. Night had fallen, and the huge purple sun in Lin Muyu's palm looked even more ferocious. Yang Li said coldly, "Pei Sun, Huang Yi, step back a little. Don't get affected by his power." Pei Sun frowned. "Sir Yang Li, is he really that strong? I told you to step back, so step back. What's with the nonsense?" "Yes." The 6 gods quickly retreated dozens of meters, and the Saint Sovereign had already retreated hundreds of meters. He had experienced the purple sun shakes the earth before, and he didn't want to experience it again. "Come on." Yang Li continuously activated his divine power, and the image of a huge ancient shield actually condensed in front of his sword. The divine power was vast, and this shield's defensive ability was extraordinary. In the air, Lin Muyu launched an attack without saying a word. He suddenly threw the power of the purple sun down, and it was like a scorching sun falling to the ground. Boom! Flames soared into the sky. The purple sun shakes the earth was a fire elemental power, and it was incompatible with Yang Li's ice shield. The shockwave produced by the explosion swept through the surrounding valley for dozens of miles. Although the divine power contained in the purple sun shakes the earth was still only at the 10th level of the grotto heaven level, it made Yang Li's bones feel a burning pain. Ice elemental gods hated fire elemental divine power the most, and it just so happened that Lin Muyu was an elementary god who was proficient in fire elemental laws. Amidst the chaotic attacks, Yang Li roared continuously. His iron fist descended from the sky and forcefully smashed on the surface of the purple sun. He roared angrily, "Die for me, bastard." Under the impact of 57 layers of frost waves, the purple sun was actually forcefully smashed into pieces. But the moment Yang Li raised his head, he saw a long sword with flames lingering around it attacking his head at high speed. It was Lin Muyu's star's sword, Dragon Flame Spiral Break. Yang Li was shocked. What a strong recovery speed. He had just used the purple sun shakes the earth, and he immediately used the sword blade spiral attack. This kid was indeed a true freak. Chapter 661. Although Yang Li possessed the divine wall ability, he was naturally unwilling to take the risk. In a hurry, he swung his head to the side and barely dodged the blade. However, the fire force produced by the rapid rotation of the stellar sword still tore open the divine wall beside Yang Li's cheek. Although it was only a centimeter-long gap, blood had already appeared on Yang Li's cheek. To a divine king, this was a great humiliation. "You're courting death." Yang Li let out a shout and raised his ice sword to smash away the star's sword. The wind whistled past his ears. Lin Muyu held an inconspicuous dagger in her hand and slashed at Yang Li's neck. It was the demonic noise blade. For a moment, Yang Li complained incessantly in his heart. His strength was definitely above Lin Muyu's, but what could he do? This kid was like a desperate man. He didn't use any palm techniques at all, but each and every move was fatal. How was this a martial arts competition? It was more like a slaughter, a battle between beasts. Dang! Yang Li's wrist guard blocked the attack of the demonic noise saber. He raised his leg and kicked at Lin Muyu's abdomen. It was a simple kick, but the divine wave contained in it was not simple. Furthermore, there were 57 waves. Pung! The godly king's speed was not inferior to Lin Muyu's. This kick was very experienced. Lin Muyu instantly spat out a mouthful of blood. However, a gourd vine also silently wrapped around the godly king's other leg. Lin Muyu was originally one with her martial soul. With a thought, the gourd vine quickly pulled her back. She raised her iron fist that was surrounded by the law of fire and punched Yang Li's chin. Yang Li lost his balance from the pull of the gourd vine. How could he dodge it? He took the punch. Pung! Golden light splattered. This fierce punch did not penetrate the divine wall, but it made Yang Li groan in pain. His chin was almost dislocated. He opened his left hand and grabbed Lin Muyu's arm. His right hand formed an elbow strike and attacked from above. With a muffled groan, Lin Muyu's shoulder blade felt like it had been shattered. Every casual attack from Yang Li was accompanied by 57 layers of waves. Naturally, Lin Muyu did not have it easy. After being hit by an elbow, she knelt in the middle of the frozen stream, her knees smashing into the ground, forming a huge pit. Looking up, Lin Muyu gathered almost all her strength into her right fist and threw a punch at Yang Li's abdomen. 5 elements 8 desolation. Di Wuyao gathered the divine energy from all directions into a single point, and that single point was Lin Muyu's fist. When the 7 luminaries' profound energy within that fist exploded, Yang Li could not help but feel a sweet taste in his throat, and he looked like he was about to spit out a mouthful of blood. No, he had to endure. As a divine king, he could not embarrass himself like this. Yang Li tried his best to protect his body. His abdomen was hit continuously and the divine wall had already started to crack. He suddenly opened his arms and grabbed Lin Muyu's shoulder and threw him out. Pung! Lin Muyu's body was heavily embedded into the stone mountain at the side. 7 moves. 8 moves. 9 moves. 10 moves. Not far away, Honest Desolation shouted, "Divine King Yang Li, you've already exchanged 10 moves. Is that kid dead yet?" Yang Li frowned and looked at the big hole in the mountain wall. Although Lin Muyu was in a sorry state, he could still feel his aura. This kid was only injured. He was not dead yet. No, he is lucky. Yang Li said coldly, "Let's go. We will let him go today." Yes. The group of Heaven Realm gods disappeared on the spot. In the deep hole in the mountain wall, Lin Muyu held a ball of starlight in his left hand. His 7 glorious stars transformation was already half done. If Yang Li dared to come, he would greet him directly. However, he was slightly disappointed that Yang Li left with the group of Heaven Realm gods. It seemed like he had no intention to kill him. After dispersing the power of the stars, he walked out of the pile of rubble with the help of his star sword. The Qin King armor that he was wearing was already in tatters. It seemed like he needed to change into a new set. His shoulder and abdomen were injured. Yang Li's 57 layered waves were indeed powerful. It was not something a normal person could withstand. At this moment, the sound of flapping wings came from the sky. It was a green bird. Qin Yu had found him. Lin Muyu smiled and let Qin Yu land on his arm. "What's wrong?" Qin Yu chirped, as if he was very concerned about his master's safety. A few seconds later, a blood-red crack was torn open in front of them. Ouyang Yan, dressed in fiery red, came over. Seeing Lin Muyu's miserable appearance, she was startled. "How did this happen? Who is it?" "Yang Li, do you know him?" "Yang Li?" Ouyang Yan walked forward and held on to Lin Muyu's arm, letting him hold on to her shoulder. She frowned. "This name sounds familiar, but he doesn't seem to be a god from the Eastern Heaven Realm." "Yes, I heard he's from the Northern Heaven Realm." "Northern Heaven Realm?" Ouyang Yan squinted her eyes. "I remember now. I saw this person at the Divine King competition 3,000 years ago. He was a divine king who could perfectly control the law of ice. At that time, many people thought highly of him. They thought that he would definitely be able to cultivate a divine spark and become the ruler of the law of ice. He won't. Lin Muyu grinned miserably. Why not? Because I will kill him before he becomes a divine king. Yo, I've never seen someone like you before. You're still bragging after being beaten up like this. I'm impressed by a supreme god like you. Ouyang Yen smiled charmingly. Lin Muyu glanced at her, feeling a little awkward. After hanging out with her for a long time, it seemed that these gods would all be influenced and lose their moral integrity. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was like this, and so was Ouyang Yen. However, speaking of which, these 2 people did not have any moral integrity in the first place. Hurry up and go back to heal. I only left you for a short while and you're already like this. Ouyang Yen was still quite concerned about this new friend of hers. After returning to the Longdan army camp, Wei Chou, Situ Sen, Situ Shui, and the others were shocked. They sent medicine and so on. The medical officer from the spiritual medicine department who accompanied the army also came over to treat her. Although he did not have the medical skills of Chu Yao, his medical skills were much better than Lin Muyu's. After all, Lin Muyu was only good at refining medicine, but she knew almost nothing about medical skills. After applying medicine and bandaging, she basically had to spend the next few days in bed. The housekeeper, Situ Shui, also strictly ordered Lin Muyu not to drink horses in the future. She claimed that there was plenty of water in the Longdan army camp, enough for Takshu to drink for the rest of her life. The Longdan army camp was garrisoned with 100,000 people in the sky connecting city, and they were all elites. Their strength was obvious. Even a divine king like Yang Li had to be wary of the power of the Longdan army camp. After all, although a god could easily kill a cultivator below the sanctuary realm, in the face of endless battle formations and sharp arrows, there was still a possibility of being killed. Once their power was exhausted, the only difference between a god and a mortal was their state of mind and cultivation. The night was quiet. In the sky connecting gorge, a star danced in the grass and forest. It was a firefly. Tang Xiaoxi was still sitting on the windowsill. Looking at the fireflies flying up and down in the distance, she could not help but feel a little upset. It seemed that she could no longer remember who she was, and it was said that Divine King Yang Li and the others had gone to kill Lin Muyu. She actually felt worried for no reason. Knock, knock, there was a knock on the door. It was Feng Ning-er's voice. Xiaoxi, can I come in? Yes. Feng Ning-er pushed the door open and entered. With a mysterious smile on her face, she said, I've asked around. Lin Muyu is fine. He is only seriously injured, and Divine King Yang Li did not want to kill him. Why are you telling me this? Tang Xiaoxi looked at her faintly and said, Lin Muyu is my opponent. I don't care about his life or death. If Yang Li really killed him, I will be happy for the Protoss. Is it really like this? Feng Ning-er giggled and gently held Tang Xiaoxi's snow-white legs. She tilted her head and looked at her beautiful face under the moonlight. She smiled and said, if it wasn't because you care about him, I'm afraid you would have already fallen asleep at this time, right? Tang Xiaoxi wanted to explain, but all the explanations seemed so powerless. Feng Ning-er seemed to see through her. She smiled and said, Xiaoxi, if you really want to know who you are and want to find yourself, you must face your heart and face your true self bravely. Tang Xiaoxi said with a faint gaze, I don't want to know who I am. Why? Feng Ning-er asked in surprise. Tang Xiaoxi's voice was indescribably calm. I lost my memory and can't remember anything in the past. And deep in my consciousness, I have to listen to the Holy Master. So, the Holy Master is someone who has controlled me. Since he has controlled me, he must be my enemy. And no matter what my original intentions were, I must have hurt many people close to me. So I don't want to remember who I am. I would rather die of old age here. Feng Ning-er stood in place in shock. Tang Xiaoxi, who was sitting on the windowsill, was far wiser than she had imagined. Perhaps she had already seen through everything, but she was just unwilling to wake up. You should be glad that you didn't kill Lin Muyu, Feng Ning murmured. Why? Because you were originally as close as lovers. Lovers? Tang Xiaoxi was silent. After a while, she said, Ning, you go back first. I'm tired. I want to sleep. Okay, have a good sleep. We'll talk about tomorrow's matters tomorrow. After Feng Ning left, Tang Xiaoxi didn't go to sleep. How could she sleep on such a night? After a long time, a ray of light in the night sky fluttered in the forest as if it had a mind of its own. As it approached, as if it had been summoned, a group of fireflies soon arrived in front of Tang Xiaoxi's window. Fireflies. Tang Xiaoxi looked at the whole group of fireflies in a daze. However, these fireflies danced in groups and actually condensed into a human figure. Suddenly, they dispersed, and an old man hovered in the air. His body was enshrouded in divine power, and there was a smile on his old and hearty face. Princess Shi, how have you been all these years? Chapter 662. Chu. Tang Xiaoxi raised her head and looked at the old man in front of her with her bright eyes. She didn't even know who this old man was, but she could call out his name as if he was someone she was very familiar with in her previous life. It's rare that Princess Shi still remembers this old man's name. Chu looked lovingly at Tang Xiaoxi's tired expression and said, You must have suffered here. The feeling of having your soul sealed must not be good, right? I. Tang Xiaoxi felt wronged as if she was in great pain and said, Chu, please release the shackles that are restricting my memory. Those are not the shackles that are restricting you. Chu leisurely sat by the window and looked at the starry sky outside. He said softly like a grandfather, the shackles that the demon race Saint Master placed on you are just a prelude. The real person who is restricting you is you, Princess Shi. Only by calmly accepting everything in the past can you find your true self. No one can help you with this. You can only rely on yourself. Do you understand? What should I do? Tang Xiaoxi held her head in pain. It's fine. Everything will be fine. Chu caressed Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful hair dotingly and said, But you must always remember that you loves you, and so does Xiao Yin. No one has let you down, and you shouldn't let each other down. But now, you've let Xiao Yin down, and you've let you down. You is now in danger and needs your strength. You can't continue to sink like this. You have to find yourself. You're Tang Xiaoxi with the nine-tailed spiritual lattice. You're the ruler of flames, Tang Xiaoxi looked at her hands and said, But my hands are covered in blood, and among them is Xiao Yin's blood. Many fragments of memories suddenly flashed through her mind, including the scene of Qin Yin's body turning into a bloody mist. At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi suddenly felt an indescribable pain and began to cry loudly. Chu didn't say anything and just stayed by her side. After a long time, Tang Xiaoxi looked at Chu with teary eyes and said, Chu, what should I do now? I can't get over myself. I'm already the third daughter of His Majesty the Divine Emperor. Humph. Chu frowned and said, The Devil Emperor is merely using you to kill you. If you really dies, then little Shi, you'll really be consigned to eternal damnation, and there'll be no turning back. Tang Xiaoxi bit her lips and said, But I killed Xiao Yin. Xiao Yin, Shi, Chu shuddered and said, Xiao Yin was so kind that she was willing to die for you. It was her destiny. Moreover, Xiao Yin was just a mortal, she couldn't withstand the power of an overgod's godhead. You killed her and she escaped into the 6 paths of reincarnation. After experiencing the 6 paths of heaven and earth, she became a true god. Although you killed her, you helped her. With that, Chu paused and continued, If you really want to make it up to her, then wake up from the saint's soul seal as soon as possible. Help you overcome this tribulation and help Xiao Yin complete the 6 paths of reincarnation and reunite with her. You are not the third princess of the divine race, you are Tang Xiaoxi. You are Tang Xiaoxi, the Tang Xiaoxi who dares to love and hate. There is no second Tang Xiaoxi in this world. Tang Xiaoxi curled up in pain like an injured wild cat. Her whole body trembled and the saint's seal in her brain started to work again. The pain it brought was no less than being in an abyss of fire. Looking at Tang Xiaoxi's painful state, Chu Chu couldn't help but feel incomparably distressed and said, Shao Shi, this is a cultivation between you, Shao Yin and you. This is the tribulation of the three of you. I hope you can endure it. You may have a harder time than Shao Yin and you. Promise me, you must endure it. The future of this continent depends on you. I know. Tang Xiaoxi raised her head and looked at Chu Chu and asked, Chu, there are demon races spies everywhere. Saint Masters and demon emperors are all in the divine realm. There are also the 6 gods of the northern heaven realm. You should leave quickly. It's not safe here. Don't worry, they won't be able to find me, nor will they be able to kill me. Chu Chu smiled and said, You still don't know, right? My Tao is the Tao of all living things in the world. I can transform into all living things and not be controlled by the laws. I can come and go as I please and no one can do anything to me. It's just that, my Tao seems to be too weak. Its power is far inferior to those laws of battle. So I can't help you too much. He needs you. I know. Tang Xiaoxi tried hard to restrain the restlessness and violence in her heart. Because there was another voice in her heart ordering her to kill Chu Chu. Kill this annoying old man. Chu, you should leave quickly. Tang Xiaoxi said in pain. Chu Chu could naturally see what she was going through. He stood up and said, Shao Shi, take care of yourself. I'll go to Yu's place. He seems to have experienced a battle of life and death. Tang Xiaoxi replied softly. She looked up and saw Chu Chu's white robe disintegrating and turning into a flock of white birds flying into the distance. It was very magical. Just as Chu Chu said, his Tao was the Tao of all living things in the world. It was ever-changing. Great Deacon, good news. The courtyard of the spiritual medicine department was full of flowers and plants in the imperial capital Lanyan City. Chu Yao planted flowers and plants in her spare time, so the great deacon's courtyard was almost full of flowers and plants. At this time, she was carefully cultivating a purple-ine flower when she heard the voice of the beautiful alchemist Lan Yen from the spiritual medicine department. Lan Yen had grown up in Lanyan City. Her parents had been killed during the chaos of the Iha nation, so she had been raised by her grandparents. Later, after practicing alchemy, she had become one of the genius alchemists in the spirit medicine division. At a young age, she had already stepped into the ranks of grandmaster alchemists. Because they were both women, she was highly regarded by Chu Yao. Little girl, why are you in such a hurry? You're about to be promoted to a gold star alchemist, but you're still so impatient. Chu Yao turned around and scolded with a smile. Lan Yen chuckled and said, Great Deacon, you don't know. There's an accurate report from the north. His Highness, Prince Qin, defeated the main force of the demon clan, Qianfeng, and killed nearly 100,000 of the demon clan's main force in the desert. The demon clan was completely driven into the Tongtian Gorge. Wasn't this news sent back half a month ago? Chu Yao couldn't help but laugh. This time, it's different. This time, it's accurate news. An envoy came back from Tongtian province, and brought back a detailed map of Tongtian province for His Highness King Zhong. Because of this, His Highness King Zhong is very happy, and is currently discussing with Su'er, Marquis Xining, Su Yu, how the imperial capital should reward His Highness King Qin. This, Chu Yao pursed her lips and said with a smile, Yu is the king of Qin, the head of the 3 kings. He has long been an official of the highest rank. What kind of reward does he need? But Lan Yen smiled charmingly and said, but there was news today that His Highness Prince Zhong and Marquis Xining Su are planning to establish a branch of the Holy Temple and Spiritual Medicine Department in Tongtian Province. They are considering who to send there. Don't tell me that you don't have any ideas, Grand Deacon. You haven't seen Prince Qin for half a year. Ah. Chu Yao was finally moved. Yan and Aunt Lien are planning to move the headquarters of the spiritual medicine department to the Tongtian province? Not really. Lan Yen smiled mischievously and said, however, the war between the Empire and the demon race hasn't ended yet. The eastern region needs a large amount of medicinal herbs and medical officers. Great Deacon, you can go to His Highness Prince Zhong and recommend yourself to go to the eastern region to build the eastern branch hall of the spiritual medicine department. In this case, I guess with your friendship with His Highness Prince Zhong, he won't refuse. This isn't too good. It's like abusing your power for personal gain. Chu Yao blushed and said. Lan Yen curled her lips. Oh, listen to what you're saying. I know that Prince Qin, Lin Muyu is your only relative in this world. You two are as close as real siblings. You can go to your relative's side and serve the Empire at the same time. Isn't this abusing your power for personal gain? Is it really like this? Yes, yes. But you must take me with you. Hee, I also want to join the army and become a medical officer refining medicine for the glory of the Empire. Humph, little girl, I know you have your own wishful thinking. Chu Yao rebuked with a smile and said, it's already late. Forget it, we'll go to Zai Tian Hall tomorrow. Yes, yes. In the east of the Empire was a vast sea. It was called the East Sea by the people. The East Sea was very deep and magnificent. Storms would come almost every season, letting the people of the Middle Earth understand the wrath of the sea god. There had always been a saying in the Empire, evildoers should not travel far in the East Sea. For thousands of years, the fishermen by the sea never dared to travel too far. Not a single ship that sailed hundreds of miles away from the coastline had ever returned. As for whether there really were evildoers in the sea, no one knew. However, in the middle of this vast East Sea, there was a luxurious island. The dragon-shaped island was half the size of Heaven's Pivot province. It could be considered a piece of land on the sea. At the same time, this dragon-shaped island also became the resting place of the southern guardian king, Qin Yi, after his defeat. Nearly 200,000 soldiers of the defeated Iha nation fled their homes and came to the dragon-shaped island. They spent half a month subduing the islanders and gradually re-established the Iha nation's political power here, hoping to sweep through the Middle Earth once again. The Iha nation's war flag fluttered on the entire island. Thousands of soldiers of the Iha nation stood guard here. Back then, it was here that they defeated the Empire's fleet sent by Feng Jixing, allowing the Iha nation to continue struggling at death's door. At the very front of the reef stood a man wearing a golden robe. His hair had already turned white, and he looked into the distance to the west. That was the direction of the Empire. Ding Shi had aged and was no longer the famous general of the Iha nation who was full of vigor. Behind him, Long Qianlin slowly walked over with his hand on the hilt of his sword and said, Marshal Ding, are you anxiously waiting again? Oh, it's Marshal Long. Ding Shi smiled sadly and touched the bag on his waist, which contained a handful of soil he had brought from Shenyang City, the soil of the central continent. He said sadly, how long have we been away from our hometown? Almost 5 years. Yes, almost 5 years. Ding Shi nodded and said, has Marshal Long ever thought of returning to the Middle Earth? Yes, Long Qianlin looked into the distance and said, but I'm afraid I'll have to wait until the moment I die and have my descendants bring my corpse back to my hometown, Yu City. Ding Shi let out a long sigh and smiled. Success and failure are things that happen throughout the ages. It's hard to tell right from wrong. Chapter 663. The starry sky was like a chessboard, shining bright light on the earth. Outside Tong Tian City, the Longdan army camp stretched for 10 miles. The lights were connected, and there was an endless stream of sentries coming and going. The sound of horse hooves was messy, but the soldiers in the camp had already fallen asleep. Those who had been in the army for many years had long gotten used to the sound of horse hooves. No matter how noisy it was, they could still sleep peacefully. Lin Muyu sat cross-legged on the bed, rays of starlight swirling in her palm. At the same time, strands of golden spiritual essence that were almost invisible to the naked eye gathered from all directions and seeped into her high, nourishing the sovereign personality that was slightly exhausted after being overused. These spiritual essences came from the prayers of the living beings in the shattered cauldron world. Faith itself was a kind of power, and Lin Muyu was a supreme god who was proficient in the 12 laws. No matter which law the people in the world prayed to, Lin Muyu would be able to obtain the power of faith. This was probably the strength of the sovereign personality. At the head of the bed, on a wooden frame made of wisteria, Jianghu stood on it. He closed his eyes and slept, accompanying Lin Muyu. Jianghu was just a green swan without much consciousness. He didn't even know that he was the reincarnation of Qin Yin, and he didn't even know that the owner in front of him was his lover in his previous life. It was the same for Lin Muyu. It was as if the world was like a knot, entangling and mercilessly tormenting a pair of lovers. Is Yang Li really that powerful? Ouyang Yen was only wearing a layer of light muslin, and her beautiful body was faintly discernible as she lay on the opposite bed and asked with a smile. Yes, he can already launch the wave attack of the 57th heavenly cave. Ouyang Yan's mouth turned into an O shape. Oh my god. I never thought that he had already cultivated to such a powerful realm. It must be the divine emperors of the northern heaven realm who are helping him, otherwise. Otherwise he would need at least another 10,000 years to have this kind of cultivation. Oh. Don't the god emperors of the heaven realm fight and look down on each other? They actually help each other? You don't understand. Ouyang Yen crossed her long legs at the head of the bed and revealed an incomparably seductive smile as she said, "The myriad of stars are vast and boundless. Currently, only the parts that have been explored are divided into the 4 great heaven realms. However, outside the 4 great heaven realms, there are even more lands that are waiting to be conquered. These lands are called the sky beyond skies. Even within the 4 great heaven realms, there are still many areas that the gods have yet to step into. Therefore, the heaven realms aren't as peaceful as you think. All the major powers want to recruit outstanding talents for their own use. For example, when I had just stepped into the Divine King realm, I received invitations from the Southern Heaven Court, Northern Heaven Court and Eastern Heaven Court. Unfortunately, I rejected all of them." Lin Muyu furrowed her brows. As she healed her injuries, she said, "If my supreme godhead is as powerful as the rumors say, they should be trying to recruit me. However, from Yang Li's attitude, it seems like they want to kill me. That's because you're a lower realm deity. You're not protected by the laws of the heavens beyond heaven." "What do you mean?" "It's like this." Ouyang Yen murmured, "Thousands of years ago, before the top god emperors of the heaven realm ascended to the sky beyond skies, they made an agreement that if a god with the supreme godhead, master godhead and cast immortal godhead appeared in the sky beyond skies, no one was allowed to harm them. Otherwise, the gods of the sky beyond skies would join forces to kill them. Think about it, the cultivation of the god emperors of the sky beyond skies are so abnormal. Gods like Pangu, Nuwa, Fuxi, Zeus and Odin have already entered the sky beyond skies for tens of thousands of years. If the gods of the heaven realm were to provoke them, any one of them would be enough to cause chaos in the heaven realm." Lin Muyu couldn't help but take a deep breath. Listening to Ouyang Yan's words, it was truly an eye-opener. So the gods of the legends were all real. Although they were far away in the sky beyond skies, they still existed. Thinking about this, Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. It seems like the earlier I ascend to the god realm, the safer I will be? In principle, yes. Ouyang Yen blinked her eyes and said with a smile, "If you can part with Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Feng Jixing, Chu Yao, and the others." Lin Muyu was silent for a moment, then opened her mouth and asked, "What's so good about being a god?" Ouyang Yen was surprised, then said with a smile, "Immortality. As long as the heavens, Xiaoyao is at ease, perhaps, don't say it, go to sleep." Lin Muyu looked at Ouyang Yen and said, "Your newborn divine spark is still very immature and needs a lot of rest to nourish it. You have to cherish it, this divine spark is a heavenly Tao spark. I know, you should sleep early too." Ouyang Yen turned over and covered herself with a light quilt. She laid on her side with her back facing Lin Muyu, leaving him an extremely beautiful view of her back. Lin Muyu closed her eyes and continued to use the mental cultivation method of the forging dragon bone remnant scroll to speed up the recovery of her injuries. Ouyang Yen was naturally proficient in the law of fire and could also be considered a genius. Unfortunately, her divine spark had been taken away by powerful enemies time and time again. A genius's aptitude was a bitter gourd's life. Now that she had pledged herself to Lin Muyu's side, she had to encounter a powerful enemy like Yang Li. The words fate is full of misfortune could be used to describe her. After an unknown amount of time, a sudden noise came from outside and Lin Muyu woke up from her light sleep. She opened her eyes and asked, "What's going on?" The one on duty outside was Wei Chou. Although he was Duke Wei, Wei Chou was always like a bodyguard and was inseparable from the army. His voice came from outside the tent, reporting to Your Highness. The messenger said that someone who claims to be Chu Chu wants to see you. I wonder if he is really Lord Chu Chu. Please come in. Yes. Lin Muyu got up, put on a coat and went out to welcome him. Her spirit pulse technique had already faintly sensed a mysterious divine power a mile or two away. It was a divine power that contained the aura of life, but it also contained a strong aura of fire. It must be Chu Chu. He was called the fire cauldron Chu Chu by the world, so he was naturally in existence who was proficient in the law of fire. It seemed that Chu Chu had also stepped into the divine realm. She took the reins of Takshu from Wei Chou and got on the horse. She brought Wei Chou, Bai Yin and the others and galloped away. Halfway there, she saw Chu Chu walking towards her from afar. It was indeed him. Chu Chu was dressed in a white robe and floated like an immortal. Right now, his body was emitting an immortal aura. It was as if he was a completely different person from the previous Chu Chu. Chu Chu. Lin Muyu got off the horse and welcomed him with great joy. She knelt on the ground and saluted him. Chu Chu hurriedly held her arms and laughed. There is no need to be so courteous. You are now the head of the 3 kings of the empire, King Qin. An old man like me cannot accept this. Lin Muyu said, You are my teacher. A teacher for a day is a father for life. Chu Chu, you are worthy of my salute. As he spoke, he broke free from Chu Chu's arms and saluted him seriously. Wei Chou, Bai Yin and the others stood at the side and looked at Chu Chu with a smile. Chu Chu's arrival had greatly strengthened the empire's power and calmed the anxious people's hearts. Now, many people in the Longdan army camp already knew that Lin Muyu was injured. The person who injured her was a true god from the heaven realm. The people's hearts had long been shaken. Lin Muyu stood up and held Chu Chu's arm. She smiled and said, Chu Chu, please come into the tent. Servants, prepare a banquet. I want to have a good drink with Chu Chu. Yes, Your Highness. At this moment, Ouyang Yen floated over. She was dressed in a fiery red robe. Chu Chu could not help but squint his eyes and smile. You Chu, this is? This is Ouyang Yen. Good, even she has been subdued by you? Chu Chu asked. This, just as Lin Muyu was at a loss for words, Ouyang Yen bowed respectfully and said with a smile, Ouyang Yen, pay my respects to Lord Fire Cauldron Chu Chu. That's right, I have been subdued by His Royal Highness Emperor Qin and am now his woman. Chu Chu smiled. Good, good. You are indeed a promising young man. It was useless to explain. Lin Muyu was speechless. Inside the tent, the attendants lit the candles and everyone sat down. Lin Muyu invited Chu Chu to the seat beside her. Wei Chou, Situ Sen, Fengxi, Situ Shui, and the others also accompanied him. Fire Cauldron Chu Chu was one of the great Qin Empire's white-robed imperial guards. He was worthy of everyone's respect. In just a few minutes, wine and delicacies were served. Although it was late at night, the chefs of the spiritual fire department were all prepared. Plates of dry cut venison, salted red prawns, and other delicacies were served. Chu Chu suddenly waved his hand and smiled. You Chu, I only drink wine. I don't eat meat. Oh. Lin Muyu was an intelligent person. She could already see that Chu Chu cultivated not only the law of fire, but also the law of life. A god who cultivated the law of life would definitely be able to listen to the cries of all living things and pity the state of the universe. Therefore, it was foreseeable that Chu Chu did not eat meat. On the other hand, although she was well versed in the 12 laws, she still could not give up on eating meat. No wonder her cultivation could not improve. Come, change Chu Chu to vegetarian food. Lin Muyu smiled. Chu Chu nodded. The scene fell into a brief moment of awkwardness until Chu Chu looked up at Lin Muyu and said, I went to see Princess Shi. Lin Muyu was originally arranging for the staff of the spiritual fire department to cook some delicious vegetarian food for Chu Chu. After hearing his words, she was immediately stunned and said, Xiao Shi. How is she? She's fine. Chu Chu's voice was very calm as he continued, it's just that the sacred master of the devil race has placed a restriction in the depths of her soul, so she might not be able to do things freely. You Chu, you have to understand her. Princess Shi is naturally kind. Although she is a little arrogant, she will definitely not hesitate for the people she cares about. Give her a little more time, I believe she will return to the embrace of the empire. Lin Muyu frowned, Chu Chu, do you know that Xiao Shi killed Xiao Yin? I know. A trace of pain appeared on Chu Chu's face. Fate makes fools of people. This matter cannot be explained in a few words. Xiao Shi is indeed in the wrong, but you can't blame her entirely. I don't blame her. I just want to know why she would be so cruel to kill Xiao Yin. Because of Xiao Yin's edict, Tang Lan died. Because of Xiao Yin's existence, Xiao Shi lost you. Because Xiao Shi was controlled by Yaoji, who is good at bewitching people. Are these reasons enough? Chu Chu glanced at Lin Muyu and said, You Chu, ask yourself honestly, are you not in the wrong? Since we met in Kathaya City, I have seen everything between you and Xiao Shi. You should also be able to feel that Xiao Shi loves you. But how much of your love do you share with her? Lin Muyu sat there in a daze, speechless. All right, Chu Chu patted his shoulder lightly and said, these are all in the past. I know that the earth you came from stresses that relationships must be one-on-one, but this is the shattered cauldron realm. Moreover, I have already sensed that young men and women on earth may not be one-on-one. Which beautiful woman doesn't have a spare tire that can be counted on one hand? Besides, Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi have been taught that a man can have many wives since they were young. You can try to accept the two of them, lest your family affairs cause chaos in the world. Situ Sen, Wei Chou, and the others laughed loudly. Bai Yin also smiled and said, that's right, Your Highness. Her Highness Yin is the eldest, and Princess Shi is the second. 135 Her Highness Yin, 246 Princess Shi, accompany us to a brothel on our last day. Life is so perfect. Lin Muyu wanted to die. You bastards, do you think I'm Zhang Wei? Alright, let's drink. Let's not talk about these unhappy things. Yes. Chapter 664. Not long after, Situ Sen, Wei Chou, Bai Yin, Fengxi, and the others had drunk too much. They complained that the camp was too stuffy and wanted to go out and ride their horses. Lin Muyu had no choice but to agree to go out for a walk. One man on one horse, the group of dozens of people galloped out of the camp towards the stream a mile away from the camp. This place was very close to the camp, and there were continuous patrols nearby, so it was relatively safe. The drunk citizen suggested, I once heard from Duke Wei Chou that he was still a virgin, and I also heard that virgins can urinate extremely far. Look, this stream is at least 20 meters wide. Why don't we have a bet to see who can urinate further? Situ Shui's face immediately flushed red, but the other woman at the scene, Yang Yan, curled her lips as if it was a common occurrence. How about this grand aunt be the witness? Hurry up and take it out. Wei Chou's steps were so slippery that he couldn't care less about his status as Duke Wei anymore. He hugged Situ Sen's shoulder and said, I told you not to call me Ah Chou. General Sun, I'm really not bragging, even the wind is at least 3 meters. Is that so, is that so? Situ-san looked like he had a card up his sleeve and said, let's go, we won't know if we don't compete. Let's all come together, whoever can urinate the shortest will treat everyone to a feast at the most expensive new restaurant in Sky Connect City. Do you dare to bet? Why wouldn't I dare? Fengxi and Bai Yin also joined in readily. The 4 generals who controlled close to 200,000 soldiers in the Longdan army camp competed to see who could urinate the furthest. The embarrassing noise was mixed with the night wind. Io, Dukwei is really amazing, it's a whole 5 meters. General Sun is even further, 30 meters. Damn General Sun, you shameless bastard, you actually concentrated your fighting energy at your roots, shameless bastard. Aha, if you bet, you lose, acho. Sita Shui was so embarrassed that she was speechless. She led the horse with Ouyang Yen and ran to the other side to chat. Lin Muyu and Chu Chu stood on the deserted dam upstream of the small river. It was time to continue giving pointers on cultivation. You, increase your strength to the strongest realm, let Grandpa see. Chu Chu stood majestically in the wind, smiling. Yes. Lin Muyu let out a low roar, and an invisible force field enveloped the surroundings. Immediately, the weeds and gravel on the ground began to float. Rays of golden light flew out from the soles of Lin Muyu's feet and circled around his body. His supreme god force was like a monstrous wave that swept across the sky, and the golden waves caused his handsome short hair to flutter. He looked like a true god that had descended into the world. Good. Chu Chu nodded his head in admiration. It's really as the legend says. The spiritual lattice that Ayu possesses is the supreme lattice that all the gods in the heavenly realm yearn for even in their dreams. This kind of majestic power is really too amazing. However, it seems like you can only compare to the 10th heaven? Yes. Lin Muyu slowly retracted his god force back into his body and said, every time I try to break through to the 11th heaven, the pain brought by the god wave is simply unbearable, so I don't dare to forcefully break through to the 11th heaven. You are doing the right thing. Chu Chu nodded his head. Forcefully cultivating will only harm your newly formed godly body. If the damage to your body is too severe, you will not be able to condense the god wall. No matter how strong your cultivation is, you will never be able to cultivate the god wall. Lin Muyu said, Then what should I do? More haste, less speed. Cultivation is about achieving success when the conditions are right. You have a supreme being Godhead, and although it can provide you with a vast amount of divine energy, the wave of God generated by the supreme being Godhead is naturally more difficult to cultivate. The pain it brings is tens or even hundreds of times more painful than a mortal's Godhead. You still have a long way to go, but Grandfather has a way to teach you. Oh. Chu, hurry up and tell me. Chu Chu rummaged through the space bag on his waist and found an ancient book. It was the kind of book that was written on parchment paper. However, the parchment paper was very finely divided into more than 10 pages. On the cover of the book, there were 3 big words, Art of Cultivating Spirit. Chu Chu raised his hand and handed the book to Lin Muyu. He smiled and said, I have traveled all over the mountains and rivers in search of this continent's hidden treasures. Then, I found this Art of Cultivating Spirit. You, take a look. Maybe this Art of Cultivating Spirit will be useful for your cultivation. Lin Muyu held the Art of Cultivating Spirit like it was a treasure. She raised her head and said, Chu, will this Art of Cultivating Spirit really be useful for my cultivation? Of course. Chu Chu smiled and said, I have been cultivating the Art of Cultivating Spirit for more than 2 years. Maybe I can show you my results. Oh, okay. Lin Muyu smiled and nodded. She took a few steps back and let Chu Chu do what he wanted. Chu Chu still had his hands behind his back, standing in the same spot like an old man. Suddenly, his clothes and white beard fluttered even though there was no wind. Streams of fiery god force seeped out of his body. Golden light flashed and waves of waves swirled around him. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The 10th wave, breakthrough. Chu Chu's aura became even more imposing. His eyes were covered with a layer of golden light. The fiery waves around him increased in intensity. The 20th wave, breakthrough. Chu Chu's cultivation was already at the mid-level ultimate god. No, there's more. The golden light became more intense. The flames that Chu Chu summoned were about to turn golden. The 30th wave, breakthrough. A golden invisible barrier appeared around Chu Chu's body. It was a divine wall. He could already condense a divine wall. Lin Muyu was stunned. She knew that Chu Chu's cultivation was extremely strong, but she did not expect it to be this strong. Condensing a divine wall. What kind of cultivation was that? According to Ouyang Yen, the ability to condense a divine wall was obtained by chance. Less than 5% of the gods in the heavenly realm had obtained a divine wall. But Chu Chu, a lower world god, had actually condensed a divine wall. It was really shocking. Ouyang Yen, who was not far away, was also shocked. Oh. My goodness, I thought that the old man was just a swindler, but to think that he's actually an expert who is capable of forming a divine wall. Zhang Xian exclaimed in astonishment, my goodness. Situ Shui smiled. Fire Cauldron Chu Chu is known as one of the Empire's twin paragons. His cultivation is naturally not low. Oh. Who's the other one? Great Deacon Lei Hong has died for his country. Oh, at this time, Chu Chu's forehead was already covered in sweat. He quickly retracted his energy and said, all right, my old bones can't handle this anymore. Condensing a divine wall will consume a lot of divine energy. This heavenly Tao lattice of mine can't last for long. It's already very powerful. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She held the spirit refinement art in her hand and smiled, I can't wait to go back and cultivate. I've already broken through to the 10th heavenly cave. Then let's go back. Chu Chu smiled happily. Lin Muyu's thirst for power was very intense. Ever since he stepped into the god state, he had never been defeated. However, he was defeated by Yang Li. The biggest reason was the disparity between their cultivation realms. Every attack of Yang Li contained the impact of the waves of the 57th level of Grotto Heaven, while every attack of Lin Muyu's was only the wave of the 10th level of Grotto Heaven. Wei Chou, General Sun, let's go back. Lin Muyu said loudly. Everyone got on their horses and went straight back to the Longdan army camp. After returning to the camp, the first thing Lin Muyu did was to cultivate in seclusion. He locked himself in a stone house in the depths of the camp. He didn't even bring Ouyang Yen with him. Because he had the spirit refinement art, he didn't need Ouyang Yan's guidance anymore. Moreover, Ouyang Yen also needed to cultivate. Under the candlelight, Lin Muyu flipped open the art of cultivating the spirit and read it carefully. After reading it once, she was actually able to memorize almost every word clearly. Even Lin Muyu was a little amazed at how her memory was so strong. In reality, it was very simple. This was originally a kind of ability of God. The spirit refinement art was just a kind of mental cultivation method. It purely cultivated the state of mind. It was divided into 4 stages. The first stage of mind, calm like the wind. The second stage of mind, like walking into the abyss. The third stage of mind, like a dragon in the sea. The fourth stage of mind, thoroughly tempered. Lin Muyu repeatedly recited the method of the first stage of mind in his heart. Calm like the wind. As the name suggested, one shouldn't force oneself during cultivation. Instead, one should be like the wind. The wind didn't follow one's will and couldn't be forced. After reciting it continuously for dozens of times, Lin Muyu's restless state of mind gradually calmed down. He closed his eyes and let the divine waves in his body flow on their own. He only felt that the waves condensed by the supreme divine power flowed through the meridians of his arms, legs, head, and other parts of his body. It was neither slow nor slow, like a trickle. Although the process was very slow, it was calm and comfortable. After a long time, the waves stopped near the Qihai. The waves became more and more vigorous. Finally, they made a natural impact on the profound latch in the Qihai. The first wave. Lin Muyu didn't rush to succeed. He continued to guide the waves in his body to flow back on their own. About half an hour later, the waves made a second impact on the profound latch. Although it was slow, the pain of cultivation was also reduced a lot. It wasn't until early in the morning that the waves in his body finally began to impact the 11th heavenly cave. The trickle formed a monstrous wave in the Qihai. Without any hesitation, it rushed to the profound latch. Suddenly, a sharp pain as if his body was being torn apart came from his body. Lin Muyu clenched his teeth and endured all of this with great difficulty. He only heard a bang sound coming from the depths of his body. The profound latch was once again opened. He was ecstatic. The supreme divine power of the 11th heavenly cave had been successfully cultivated. This art of cultivating spirit was indeed mysterious. He really didn't know where Chu Chu had obtained such a treasure. Just like that, 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu's cultivation had improved greatly. His body had already withstood the impact of the 13th divine wave. He had successfully cultivated the supreme divine power of the 13th heavenly cave. Early in the morning, the sound of hooves could be heard in the autumn mist. A group of imperial soldiers appeared in the south of Heaven Connect City. "Who are you?" The patrolling soldiers of the Longdan army camp went to greet them. Among the crowd, a beautiful young girl dismounted from her horse. She was wearing the Spirit Medicine Department's Great Deacon's velvet white robe. She wore a long azure dress underneath. She smiled and said, "I am Chu Yao from the Spirit Medicine Department. Can you take me to see His Royal Highness, Emperor Qin?" Chapter 665. Next to the self-made sand table, Lin Muyu inserted the small blue flags into the heaven gorge that the demon race was guarding. She frowned. The next step of the battle was none other than to use the heavy cannons to blast open the heaven gorge and annihilate the demon race in one fell swoop. If the demon race was not eliminated, the Empire would not be able to live in peace. "We have transported 100,000 tons of stalactite absorption rocks from Bronze Helmet Mountain and are cutting them into pieces. Don't worry, Your Highness. The sky curtain can no longer stop us," Wei Chou said respectfully. "What about the cannonballs?" Lin Muyu asked. "There are 50,000 left." Situ Shui smiled and asked, "Is it enough?" "No, at least 200,000 magic crystal cannons are needed to blast the entire Tongtian Gorge." Wei Chou, write a letter and send it to Winter Frost City. Ask Xiling and the others to speed up the production in 2 months. Yes. At this time, a guard came in and said solemnly after a military salute, "Your Highness, Chu Yao, the Great Deacon of Lanyan City's Spiritual Medicine Department, requests an audience." "Do you want to see her?" "What? Chu Yao?" Lin Muyu was stunned. She threw away the small flag in her hand and rushed out of the tent. Outside, the sun was shining brightly. Chu Yao, who was wearing a velvet robe, was like a lotus flower coming out of the water. She looked at Lin Muyu with a refreshing smile. The joy of meeting after a long time was self-evident. Lin Muyu rushed forward and gave Chu Yao a bear hug. Chu Yao also opened her arms and hugged him. She said with a red face, "There are so many people here. What are you afraid of?" No one dares to make irresponsible remarks. Indeed, the entire empire knew that Lin Muyu and Chu Yao were like siblings, so no one would think too much about it. After spinning a few rounds with Chu Yao in her arms, Lin Muyu put her down with a smile. She had already sensed the faint Saint Realm aura on Chu Yao's body just now. She couldn't help smiling and said, "Looks like Sister Chu Yao's cultivation has improved a lot again." "Yes, but not as fast as you." Smiling, Chu Yao took a step back and performed a ladylike bow. "Congratulations, Your Highness, for defeating the demons and making a great contribution to the Empire." "Sister Chu Yao, don't make fun of me, it's just a small victory." Lin Muyu rubbed her nose and said, "Let's go, we'll talk inside." Yes. The two of them walked into the tent and saw Chu Chu, who was sipping tea. Chu Yao was stunned and hurriedly saluted. "Greetings, Lord Chu Chu." "Oh, it's Yao." Chu Chu and Chu Yao's grandfather Chu Feng were close friends, so they were naturally familiar with each other. He said with a smile, "Yao, why did you come all the way from the imperial capital?" "Yes." Lin Muyu also asked, "Sister Chu Yao, why did you come here?" Chu Yao explained, "It's like this. Considering the lack of resources in Lingdong province and Tongtian province and the scarcity of medicine, a large amount of medicine has to be transported from Lanyan City all the way here, and half of the medicine will be lost on the bumpy road. Therefore, Lord Ah Yen and Lord Siyu decided to build a new branch of the spiritual medicine department in the eastern region, so I, the Grand Deacon, recommended myself to build this branch myself." "So, Sister Chu Yao will be staying here for a long time?" Lin Muyu was overjoyed. "Yes, with me here to disturb you, please don't find me annoying." No, of course not." After everyone took their seats, they began to talk about the reconstruction of Tongtian City. Since Winter Frost City had enough manpower, it was not a problem to rebuild Tongtian City. Moreover, the stone materials from the wreckage of the city were still there, so the main body of the building was ready. The only thing missing was some burnt wood and bricks. Lin Muyu was extremely protective of Chu Yao. "Since the Spirit Medicine Department wants to establish a branch in Heavenspan Province, then let's establish it in Heavenspan City. Men, pass down my orders. The Spirit Medicine Department branch will be built first in the city. Also, the Sacred Temple will be built first. After that, we'll build the City Lord's Mansion and Merchant Association." Wei Chou cupped his fists. "Your Highness, rest assured. We have enough resources and manpower. The public buildings have long been rebuilt. The Spiritual Medicine Department, the Holy Temple, and the Lord's Mansion have begun to take shape and will be ready to move in half a month. In addition, we have built 1,000 circular houses, each of which can accommodate about 100 people. We can temporarily accommodate 100,000 people. That's good. Any movement from the demons?" "No." "Okay." In the afternoon, after treating Chu Yao to a delicious meal, Lin Muyu began to deal with the military system of the Longdan army camp. There seemed to be many problems with the establishment of Kiliarchs and captaincy, which had been passed down in the empire for thousands of years. There were still a few positions missing between Kiliarchs and captaincy, such as 2,000 generals and 5,000 generals. These should be detailed. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to mobilize 10 Kiliarchs under a captaincy. Behind Lin Muyu, Qin Yu was standing on a branch and chirping happily. Chu Chu stood up and came to the wooden stand. He squinted his eyes and looked at Qin Yu. The heavenly Tao in his Yi-Hai flew like a shuttle. Suddenly, a telekinesis power shot into his Yi-Hai. Qin Yu, who was on the wooden stand, stared at Chu Chu and actually took the initiative to connect with the telekinesis power of Chu Chu, a hierarch who was well versed in the law of life. In the Yi-Hai, the clouds parted and Qin Yu flapped its wings and slowly entered. Suddenly, the feathers on its wings slowly scattered and turned into rays of light that gathered around its body. Its body rapidly grew and gradually turned into the naked body of a beautiful girl. It was Qin Yin, who was wearing a white dress. She stood in the sky above the Yi-Hai in astonishment and looked at everything around her, as if she couldn't remember anything. Hua hua hua, the Yi-Hai surged violently and quickly separated into two torrents as if it was split by a sharp sword. In the middle of the torrents, an old man slowly walked out. It was Chu Chu's original body. His eyes were filled with love as he looked at Qin Yin in the sky. He couldn't help but tremble and said, "Xiao Yin, I didn't expect to see you here." Qin Yin seemed to have forgotten everything and murmured, You know me? Who are you, I? Has the burning pain of the 6 paths of reincarnation made you forget everything? Chu Chu was distressed and said, "It's been hard on you, Xiao Yin. Every time you reincarnate, your soul will be crushed. This kind of pain must be very unbearable, so much so that, you don't even remember who you are anymore. Qin Yin stood in the air blankly and said, Who are you? Why are you saying these strange things to me? I am fine. Chu Chu smiled and said, It's time for you to understand everything. As he said this, Chu Chu suddenly stomped on the void with one foot. Instantly, a golden wave rushed out and turned into halos that surrounded Qin Yin. Chu Chu activated his divine power and pointed 2 fingers at Qin Yin and said, You must have forgotten about Deacon Lei Hong and his art of returning God. Come, white-robed Chu Chu, will help Her Highness break this reincarnation seal and let you remember everything. Boom! Countless divine powers were drawn out of Chu Chu's body and fell from the sky onto Qin Yin's body. Qin Yin immediately let out a muffled groan. She felt as if her soul was about to be cleansed from her body. She struggled with all her might, but she could not break free from the restriction of the God Restoration incantation. Beams of golden light burst out of Chu Chu's body, spinning rapidly and bombarding the area around him. Woo! Chu Chu spat out blood but didn't give up. He looked at Qin Yin fiercely and said, Xiao Yin, are you still not going to wake up? This shout gradually calmed Qin Yin, who was in a frenzy. She knelt in the sky and absorbed the heaven dragon crystals into her body. When she raised her head again, her eyes were filled with nostalgia and suffering. She said, Lord Chu Chu, is that you? It's me, Chu Chu was about to cry. He knelt on one knee and said, Chu Chu greets your highness. Lord Chu Chu, where am I? In my high. Did your highness forget? Chu Chu's voice trembled with excitement. He said, after you died, you escaped into the 6 paths of reincarnation. In this life, you should be in the animal path. That's why you turned into a swan and stayed by Yu's side. Swan, Qin Yin suddenly burst into tears. The memory of Li Mengye from her previous life flashed through her mind. It was only at the moment of her death that she remembered everything. Only then did she realize that the fairy in front of her was Lin Muyu, whom she had longed for day and night. 2 streams of tears rolled down her cheeks. She choked with sobs and said in a sobbing voice, he. I miss him. Chu Chu's nose turned sour. He said, Your Highness, I'm useless. The art of returning spirit that I practiced is far from Lei Hong's realm. That's why I can only open your highness reincarnation seal in my high. Once you step out of my high, your memory will be sealed again. You didn't even know you at that time. Forget it. Qin Yin wiped her tears and said, Lord Chu Chu, you don't have to worry about me. I won't see you. I don't want him to see me like this. Yu misses you too. Chu Chu raised his head and looked at Qin Yin. His voice was very soft and slow. He said that he wants to see you even in his dreams. He can only see you in his dreams. Xiao Yin, you must persevere. Don't be annihilated by the karma of the 6 paths of reincarnation. As long as you persevere, you will definitely be able to reform your godhood and return to Yu's side. Promise me, never give up, okay? Qin Yin cried incessantly. She lowered her head. At this time, the power of the art of returning spirit had begun to dissipate. It was too hard for Chu Chu to maintain this power. Qin Yin raised her head and said with tears on her face, Lord Chu Chu, take good care of my brother Yu. I will. Swoosh, a ray of light flew past. Qin Yin's body turned into a bird. She fluttered her wings and flew out of Chu Chu's high. Chu Chu's spiritual sense returned to his body. It was as if he had gone through a reincarnation. He couldn't help but take a deep breath. His body swayed a little, as if he was about to be unable to stand firm. Chu, are you okay? Lin Muyu saw some clues. I'm fine. Chu Chu looked at Qin Yu, who was still jumping around happily on the wooden frame. He felt a sense of loss in his heart. Should he tell Lin Muyu the truth? So what if he told her? Would he let him and Qin Yin continue to torture each other for love? Forget it, let it be like this. When their cultivation was about to be completed, there would be a day when they would meet again. He believed that the reincarnation of the heavens would not disappoint lovers. Chapter 666. Chu Chu, are you really alright? Lin Muyu could still see that Chu Chu's spirit sense had fluctuated greatly. For a divine realm expert, it was not an ordinary thing to have a calm heart. I'm fine, don't worry about me. Chu Chu looked at Qing Yu on the wooden frame and couldn't help but say, you should think about how to fight the demons. I have a feeling that they won't sit still and wait for death. Since the demons have Yang Li, Pei Sun, Huang Yi, and the other gods to help them, they will definitely do something. Yes, I'm also waiting for them to make a move. Lin Muyu nodded. At this time, as if to confirm their words, the sound of hooves could be heard from outside the tent. A messenger opened the tent door and entered. Your Highness, the demons have sent an envoy. He really came. Let him in, Lin Muyu said with a smile. Yes. Everyone sat down. Chu Chu and Chu Yao sat on either side of Lin Muyu. He suddenly felt very confident. He was finally not fighting alone in this barren land of Clear Sky Province. A quarter of an hour later, the demon envoys finally arrived from outside the camp. There were a total of 9 people, 4 armored demons and 5 high-level demons. One of them had a scepter and wore the insignia of the 5-star demon sect on his chest. There was a trace of pride in his eyes as he walked forward and bowed to Lin Muyu. The 3rd Legion's Vice Commander Huang Pu greets Your Highness King Qin. Huang Pu. Lin Muyu smiled and said, May I know why you have come to our camp? This general represents His Majesty the God King. Naturally, I have brought His Majesty the God King's decree. The Demon King? Wei Chou sneered, how can a person hiding in a corner be worthy of being called Divine Emperor? Your Emperor is called Divine Emperor. I wonder if the gods of the heaven realm recognize this Emperor? Being ridiculed by Wei Chou like this, Huang Pu immediately felt a bit embarrassed. His arrogant momentum also converged a bit as he glared at Wei Chou. However, the person in front of him was the famous Duke Wei of the eastern region. He was a famous general who had single-handedly commanded 200,000 troops in the Longdan army camp and fought against the demons for 4 years. A mere Huang Pu couldn't compare with him. Lin Muyu smiled and asked, So, what is the intention of your Emperor Shenhuang? Huang Pu cupped his fists respectfully and said, Reporting to your Highness, the God King's intention is very simple. Our divine race and your empire have been at war for 7 years. The people have no way to make a living. War will only make the common people cry. Not only do the common people of the divine race suffer from war, I think the common people of the empire are the same. War will only bring death and tears, nothing else. Situ-san raised his eyebrows and said, Don't forget, it was the demons who first launched an attack on the empire. Now, we are giving them a tooth for a tooth. Are you saying that we are wrong? General, please calm down. Huang Pu was a man who knew how to speak. He said, This time, this general only came to bring peace. Tell me, what kind of peace? Lin Muyu said. Huang Pu cupped his fists and said, His Majesty the God King believes that there is only one way to end the war between the divine race and the empire. He wants the common people of both sides to no longer suffer from this kind of war. What method? A martial arts competition. Oh. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Tell me, what kind of martial arts competition is it? Huang Pu said, It will be a fair and just competition. The divine race and the empire will each send 5 experts to fight one-on-one. 3 wins out of 5. If the divine race wins, the empire must immediately withdraw all of its troops from Heaven Connect City, using the steel wall of Winter Ridge Province as the boundary. The empire will share the world with the divine race. If the empire wins, His Majesty the God Emperor will voluntarily lead all of his people to leave the Sky Gorge and settle in the snowy desert in the north. This. Wei Chou and Situ-san looked at each other in dismay. The bait given by the demon race was too big. They would hand over Heaven Connect Gorge. This was their lair. Originally, Lin Muyu planned to attack Heaven Connect Gorge 3 months later and destroy the demon race at the cost of the lives of 100,000 Imperial warriors and 200,000 magic crystal cannons. But now, as long as they won this competition, the demon race could withdraw from this war for supremacy without shedding a single drop of blood. What do you think, Your Highness? Huang Pu's eyes were sharp as he asked, subtly pressuring Lin Muyu. Qiao frowned and said, "It's good to resolve the war peacefully, but why do I always feel that the demon race is up to no good?" Huang Pu couldn't help but laugh. "Miss, you're worrying too much. His Majesty the God King's words are like gold and jade. Please rest assured." Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. "What is Your Highness smiling about?" "Nothing." Lin Muyu was still snickering. "What words are like gold and jade? Who do you think you're lying to? In order to obtain the world, which monarch wouldn't say anything?" Back then, Qin Yin even agreed to form an alliance with the Iha kingdom, but in the blink of an eye, he sent Xiangyu to attack the Iha kingdom's capital, Bailing City. Only a fool would keep his word in times of war. After carefully weighing the pros and cons, Lin Muyu said, "Are there any rules for this competition?" "Yes." Huang Pu said, "The competition is fair and just. You can't kill your opponent, or else you'll lose. In addition, both sides can't bring more than 1,000 people to the competition. This is what His Majesty the God King said himself." "How about this?" Lin Muyu stood up and held on to the marshal's table. She smiled and said, "I know that 7 gods have come from the Northern Heaven realm. They are Yang Li, Pei Sun, Huang Yi, and the others. They aren't part of your god race. If you really want to be fair, then Yang Li and the others can't participate in this competition. Only then can it be considered fair and just." Lin Muyu's words were undoubtedly a heavy blow. The demon race relied on the 7 gods. In 5 competitions, if 5 of the 7 gods participated, the empire would lose for sure. Huang Pu cupped his fists and said, "Yang Li is a distinguished guest invited by the god race, so His Majesty the God King said that Yang Li will definitely participate. The other 6 gods may not participate. So it's like that." Lin Muyu muttered to himself, then said, "I agree to this competition, but Yang Li can only participate in the last match." "If you agree, then it's settled." "The last match?" Huang Pu was stunned. "That's right, I will also participate in the last match. We have already decided on the number of participants, it cannot be changed." Lin Muyu's gaze was cold. He understood Yang Li's strength too well. It was safest for him to fight him. If it was someone else, they might be killed. "All right then," Huang Pu said proudly, "the 5 participants from the god race are the God King, the Saint Sovereign, Yang Li, Marshal Chen Feng, and Her Highness Tang Xiaoxi." Sure enough, the demon race still sent Tang Xiaoxi. Lin Muyu's heart sank. He wrote down 5 names on the agreement and said, "The 5 participants from our side are the Fire Cauldron Chu Chu, Ouyang Yan, Chu Yao, Situ Sen, and me. Other than me and Yang Li, do you dare to fight each other on the spot?" "Why wouldn't I dare?" Huang Pu signed his name on the agreement. There were 2 copies, one for each side. Then, Lin Muyu sent people to escort Huang Pu and the others out of the camp. Why did you count me in?" Qiao pouted and said guiltily, "I'm just a Saint Realm cultivator. How can I be a match for the demon race's God Realm masters? There's no need to fight, just admit defeat." Lin Muyu looked at Chu Chu and Ouyang Yan and said, "For the first 4 matches, our chance of winning lies with Chu Chu and Ouyang Yan. You have to win, so I can deal with Yang Li in the last match." Chu Chu was stunned. You have the confidence to defeat Yang Li?" "No." Lin Muyu shook his head. Situ-san glared at him. "Why the hell did you agree if you didn't? Who said we have to fight with our lives on the line?" Lin Muyu smiled faintly, stood up and walked to the sand table. A cold light flashed in her eyes as she said, "I have never done a losing deal. There's no need to think about it. The demon race wants to kill me in this duel, but I won't let them do as they wish." Look, the duel will be held in the White Sand Slope. This is currently the territory of our empire and is under our control. The duel will be held half a month later, so we still have a lot of time. Wei Chou couldn't help but laugh. He had followed Lin Muyu for so long that he could see through Lin Muyu's thoughts. He cupped his fists and smiled. Your Highness, please tell me what you need. Here. Lin Muyu pointed and said, dig an underground tunnel from the river 5 miles away from White Sand Slope. Form a large circle and place bell-absorbing rocks in the tunnel to disrupt the God Realm Ranker's ability to travel through planes. Then, bury a magic crystal cannon every 40 meters in the north. Since the 7 gods of the Northern Heaven Realm dared to descend to the lower realm to court death, I can't not help them. Will the bell-absorbing rocks really work? Chu Chu asked doubtfully. Chu will know once we try. The bell-absorbing rocks can disrupt the magnetic field and distort the walls of planes. As long as we bury the bell-absorbing rocks under White Sand Slope, Yang Li and the others can only teleport to the northern periphery of the bell-absorbing rock's magnetic field in an instant. At that time, we will launch the magic crystal cannon and create a chain of explosions. At least half of these 7 gods will die. Such a ruthless fellow. Ouyang Yen opened her rosy little mouth. Xu Yao also pursed her red lips and didn't say anything else. It seemed that Lin Muyu had already made up her mind to counterattack. Finally, Lin Muyu pressed her hand on the edge of the sand table and said, in this battle, no matter what, we must snatch Xiaoxi back. Yes. Wei Chou, Situ Sen, Fengxi and the others all gave an empire's military salute. Actually, everyone was very clear in their hearts that Lin Muyu's scheme and agreement to this duel, there was only one real purpose, to snatch Tang Xiaoxi back. Although this plan was filled with his own selfish motives, who could blame him? Chapter 667. In the afternoon, the Imperial Forest Military Academy's field was filled with the sounds of fighting and training. On the side of the forest, Chu Yao was cultivating under Old Chu's guidance. If possible, she wanted to step into the Saint King realm and comprehend the King Do flame before the martial arts competition. That way, even if she couldn't defeat her opponent, her chances of escaping would be greatly increased. A few steel shields hung under the willow trees. Chu Yao was wearing a velvet robe as she flew around like a jade butterfly. Streaks of sharp energy pierced through the air, creating large holes in the shields. Within a few minutes, the shields were all destroyed. Chu Chu lightly stroked his white beard and smiled. Yao's cultivation is indeed different from before. The star-picking finger is soft and gentle, but when you use it, its power surpasses that of Chu Huayin's. Is that so? Chu Yao smiled happily. Chu, can my star-picking finger really compare to brothers? The pupil has surpassed the master. Chu Chu nodded. Not far away, Ouyang Yen lightly sat on a branch that was only as thick as a finger, but she didn't fall. She crossed her snow-white legs and smiled. Oh, Lord Chu Chu, don't praise her like that. I think it's just a small trick. There's no need to praise her like that. Be careful that she doesn't become arrogant and doesn't advance any further. What did you say, you woman? Chu Yao glared at her. It was obvious that Chu Yao had long since seen that this woman called Ouyang Yen was very intimate with Lin Muyu and had long since disliked her. This Ouyang Yan's actions were bold and unrestrained, and she didn't look like a woman from a good family. I said it. Ouyang Yan's lips curled up as she looked at Chu Yao with ridicule. I said that this star-picking finger is the wild fox Sen. What, do you want to teach me a lesson? Humph. Chu Yao angrily glared at her and said, I know you are a god king, but I'm not afraid of you. Yo, what an imposing and beautiful deacon. Come, come, come. I'll let you have 1 punch and 1 kick, and I won't retaliate. I'll give you 50 moves. If you can leave even 1 wound on me, then I'll admit defeat and call you Sister Chu Yao from now on. How about it? Ouyang Yen rolled up her sleeves, revealing a pair of white arms. Chu Yao was so angry that her shoulders trembled. She gathered the power of the star-picking finger in her palm and said, let's fight. This. Wei Qiu had originally planned to stay here to secretly learn the star-plucking finger, but he never thought that the two great beauties Chu Yao and Ouyang Yen would actually want to tear him apart. In that moment, his heart was filled with helplessness as he said, "Master Chu Chu, are you not going to do anything about it?" Wei Chu stroked his beard and smiled, "No problem. Of Chu, Lord, Chu, I's clan, Yu, Dawns, Wei, I's star, Chu, Yao Shan." Swoosh. Ouyang Yen descended from the sky and raised her arm in front of her chest. Suddenly, a flame condensed into a shield. Flame shield. This was one of Ouyang Yan's signature skills. The flame shield was formed from the pure power of the law of fire. Although its defense was far from comparable to the divine wall, it was more than enough to deal with Chu Yao's star-picking finger. "Come on." Ouyang Yen smiled provocatively. "You said you won't fight back?" Chu Yao asked cautiously. "Yes, I won't fight back. Otherwise, it's my loss." "Good." Chu Yao untied the belt in front of her chest and took off her velvet robe. She handed it to the beautiful alchemist Lan Yen, leaving only a thin dress on. The dress accentuated her beautiful figure. With a light wave of her palm, the saint energy turned into starlight and circled around her fingers. She suddenly shot out and attacked Ouyang Yen like a phantom. When a saint realm expert attacked, the power was extraordinary. In fact, the cold saint realm cyclone forced Wei Qiu, Sidu Shui, Bai Yin, and the rest to retreat. Among the generals in the Longdan army camp, other than Situ Sun who had just broken through to the saint realm, the rest were still in the heavenly realm. However, Chu Yao had already reached the peak of the first heaven of the saint realm. In comparison, no one could compare to this delicate and beautiful spiritual medicine division great deacon. Swoosh. A cold wind swept past. The starlight pierced through the air and went straight for Ouyang Yan's shoulder. Ouyang Yen saw it clearly. She raised her body and easily blocked it with the flame shield in her hand. With a pft sound, the flame was like a flame that fell into an icy lake. There was a huge difference in strength between the two. Chu Yao's cultivation was indeed much weaker. After all, one was a mortal, and the other was a god king who had already formed a young heavenly Tao lattice. Chu Yao did not retreat. Her 5 fingers moved quickly, and the dazzling starlight exploded. In an instant, she had completed at least 50 finger attacks with the star-plucking finger. Ouyang Yen could not help but be surprised. This little girl's strength was so strong, and her finger techniques were so exquisite. Fortunately, she was a god king. If it was a saint venerable of the same level, they would probably not be able to block this powerful star-plucking finger. As expected, no one around Lin Muyu was easy to deal with. This Chu Yao was not simple. Bam! Her boots were surrounded by saint energy, and she kicked the flame shield heavily. However, the difference in strength was too great. Chu Yao was sent flying a few steps back. Ouyang Yan's smile widened. "Little girl, you can't do this. Qin King Lin Muyu is such a talented person. If this is all you can do, how can you stay by his side?" This sentence seemed to have pierced a part of Chu Yao's heart that she did not want others to know. She became even angrier. She clenched her fist, and starlight gathered in her fist. She punched the flame shield heavily. Bam! Finally, the flame shield, which had withstood so many attacks from the star-plucking finger, finally broke. However, at the moment it broke, Ouyang Yan's jade-like hand reached out from the flames. With a crisp sound, Chu Yao's fist collided with Ouyang Yan's palm. With just one blow, Chu Yao was immediately sent flying. The blood in her body was in turmoil, and she almost vomited blood. Ouyang Yan's palm seemed to be light, but the strength in it was stronger than the previous one. In an instant, more than 20 layers of energy waves appeared, and it directly shattered Chu Yao's protective stellar energy. Fortunately, Ouyang Yen had only used less than 20% of her divine power. Otherwise, this palm would have more or less killed Chu Yao. After all, the difference in strength between them was too great. Chu Yao's face was filled with indignation. You said you wouldn't fight back. Ouyang Yen was taken aback. She hurriedly retracted her palm and smiled apologetically. Sorry, I couldn't control myself. Who asked your star-plucking finger to be so powerful? I couldn't help but want to try it. Didn't you say that the star-plucking finger is the wild fox Zen? No, I was just joking. Ouyang Yen repeatedly apologized. After all, she also knew that this Chu Yao was Lin Muyu's favorite. If she really touched her, when Lin Muyu found out, she would definitely not be able to bear the consequences. That fellow's heart was very evil. Chu saw it clearly. He knew that Ouyang Yen only used about 10% of her strength and didn't hurt Chu Yao's heart. He said, all right, the competition ends here. It won't be too late to challenge Ouyang Yen after Yao steps into the god state. Yes, Grandpa Chu. Chu Yao bowed respectfully to Chu. Ouyang Yen looked around and said, where did His Highness Emperor Qin go? He didn't say. Wei Chou said in a low voice, His Highness only said that he went out to cultivate and might not return for 2 or 3 days. He told us to guard the camp and prepare for the competition. Chu smiled slightly. There's still half a month before the competition between us and the demon race. You naturally wants to take advantage of this time to cultivate and break through. After all, he knows that with his current cultivation, he is definitely not Yang Li's opponent. Ouyang Yen nodded, a trace of helplessness flashed across her beautiful eyes. As a divine king, she knew all too well how difficult it was to cultivate in the god state. Many people cultivated for thousands of years and still couldn't break through a small grotto heaven. There was a gap of 46 grotto heavens between Lin Muyu and Yang Li. How much could she break through in a mere 15 days? She was afraid that breaking through from the 11th grotto heaven to the 12th grotto heaven would already be very lucky. However, on second thought, Ouyang Yen felt that Lin Muyu might be different. After all, he was a freak with a unique comprehension ability and a supreme disposition. Anything was possible when it came to him. The Ice Dragon's freezing pond was a cold pond located 100 miles southwest of Heaven Connect City. The pond was surrounded by snow all year round and the accumulated snow was as high as a person. A few miles away from the pond was the warm autumn. It was strange that the temperature in the Ice Dragon's freezing pond was at least minus 50 degrees Celsius. However, the water in the pond never froze. There had always been a rumor that there was an ancient dragon race living in the Ice Dragon's freezing pond. It was very terrifying and ate humans and livestock. This was how the Ice Dragon's freezing pond got its name. At this moment, the green water of the Ice Dragon's icy pond was motionless, like a clear mirror. In the depths of the pond, faint starlight was faintly flickering. If one were to look carefully, one would be able to see a young man calmly lying in the depths of the pond with his body stretched out. Streams of star power were densely surrounding his body. His eyes were closed, and the surface of his body was suffused with golden waves that were circulating on their own. This was none other than Lin Muyu, who was using the spirit refinement art to cultivate the god's wave. The power of the god's wave was too vigorous and surging. Moreover, Lin Muyu possessed the divine power of the 12 laws. Therefore, when he cultivated the god's wave, his body would often fall into a chaotic and hot state. His endurance towards the impact of the waves would be greatly reduced. Therefore, Lin Muyu found such a method. He found an extremely cold place to cultivate. This way, he could maintain his calm in the cold and his endurance towards the impact of the god's wave would also be greatly increased. When the 12th god's wave was born in his body, it slowly circulated and began to attack the profound entrances of his dantian. Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a little irritable. However, the penetrating cold that came from the surface of his body allowed him to maintain his calm. That god's wave constantly attacked and tempered his meridian's endurance towards the divine power. This process lasted for nearly half an hour. Finally, with a schwa sound, an energy ripple spread in the pond. This also meant that he had failed in his cultivation of the 12th level of heavenly abode. Lin Muyu slowly opened his eyes. A pair of starry eyes flickered with a faint golden light in the depths of the pond. He sighed. Chapter 668. Could it be that there was something wrong with her soul-refining art? Lin Muyu's heart was filled with doubts. She had been practicing the soul-refining art's first technique very strictly. She had even been lying in this cold pond for an entire day and night without eating or sleeping. She had only been relying on the little bit of air in the pond to maintain her vitality. However, there wasn't even the slightest ripple in the pond. Could it be that there was a problem with Nzuruofeng? Looking up at the sky, it was completely dark. It should already be nighttime. At this moment, a strong golden light suddenly bloomed in the sky. Waves of divine oracle Sanskrit echoed in his ears. This scene seemed familiar. It was the divine oracle. The divine oracle's light shone right into the cold pond. As expected, it was looking for him. In the next moment, he heard a very sweet woman's voice. The soul-refining art doesn't only have the first realm. It was Xiao's voice. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be excited. Fairy Xiao, Chu only cultivated the first level of the soul-refining art, but he cultivated it to the 30th level of the heavenly abode. Why can't I? Xiao giggled. Because your godly power bearer is a supreme being lattice. Each wave of the godly power you derive is at least twice as strong as Chu's heavenly Tao lattice. Therefore, you won't be able to make a big breakthrough with just the first style of the soul-refining art. Try the second style, like walking into the abyss. Also, I have a gift for you. It might be beneficial to your study of the soul-refining art. Oh. At this moment, a golden light pierced through the sky from the divine oracle's light and fell straight into the ice dragon's wintry pond. The golden light gradually dissipated. It was a piece of azure wood about the size of a fist. It floated above Lin Muyu's chest, emitting a faint blue energy. What is this? Lin Muyu was stunned. Xiao giggled. This piece of wood is called twin flowers. Twin flowers? Lin Muyu laughed. Don't lie to me. This is just a piece of wood. How can it be called twin flowers? Xiao sighed, but this is wood refined from the essence of the twin flower's roots. That's why it's still called the twin flower in the heavenly realm, also known as the red spider lily, and the other as the datura flower. One is called the red spider lily, and the other is called the datura flower. According to the Buddhist scriptures, the datura flower blooms for 1,000 years and wilts for 1,000 years. The flower and leaves will never meet. Therefore, the red spider lily also tells of a kind of sentiment. When the red spider lily blooms, the flower blooms on the other shore. When the flower blooms, there are no leaves, and when the leaf grows, there are no flowers. Longing for each other, but not being able to see each other, they walk the path to the other shore alone. Lin Muyu was startled and was speechless. Xiao seemed to sense his bewilderment, so she said with a smile, you don't think too much. The fate between you and Little Een hasn't been extinguished, and so long as you pursue it, you'll be able to obtain karma. Didn't you cultivate bitterly precisely for the sake of breaking the cycle of reincarnation and bringing Little Een back? Lin Muyu was silent. Xiao was too smart. Almost every word she said was on his mind. All right. Xiao laughed softly. Activating the oracle requires a large amount of divine power. Moreover, I have to bring a parcel for you. Make good use of this red spider lily essence. This essence can wash away the impurities in your body. It is very effective in cultivating the god's tide, at least in the hierarch realm. You must cherish it. Don't underestimate this small piece of red spider lily essence. In the heavenly realm, this is also a treasure. A small piece of it requires 10,000 red spider lilies to refine. The demon emperor spent 200 mortal qualities to help you get this piece of essence. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. This small piece of essence was actually so precious. Moreover, the 7 luminaries demon emperor actually used mortal qualities to trade. Was there a mistake? Was godhood the currency of the heavenly realm? This was too unimaginable. Thank the demon emperor for me. Thank you too. Xiao, after I ascend, I will treat you to good food. Sure, sure. Xiao giggled. I have long wanted to eat the stewed noodles under the southern heavenly gate. When you arrive, you must treat me. It's a promise. All right, it's a promise. Also, that cast immortal quality is still being refined. I believe it will be completed soon. When it's done, I will give it to you like this. There's no need to give it to me. Just give it to Feng Jixing. All right. I will go now. You, continue to cultivate hard. All right. As the divine oracle slowly dispersed, Lin Muyu was still pondering over Xiao's words. Stewed noodles under the southern heavenly gate? It can't be. Could it be that there are still people doing business in the heavenly realm? However, after thinking about it carefully, although gods could not eat for a long time, they could not go without eating for a year and a half. It was reasonable for there to be hawkers selling stewed noodles. However, she did not dare to imagine a god with a chest full of hair-rubbing noodles. In front of her chest, the energy of the red spider lily's essence was slowly dissipating. Thus, she had to hurry up and cultivate. She could not waste the good intentions of the demon emperor and Xiao. Silently reciting the spirit refinement art's second form's incantation, like stepping into the abyss. It was different from the first form's calm like the wind. Like stepping into the abyss took the initiative, which was to take risks. When one was unable to break through for a long time, they had to circulate their godly power on their own. It was as if they were walking by the side of the abyss. Taking the unconventional path was the essence of the second form. After circulating the supreme godly power in her body and forming a wave, it flowed through her 8 extraordinary meridians. According to the mental cultivation method, this wave formed a torrent. It flowed forward and backward in her meridians. This repeated over and over again, continuously increasing in strength. In the end, it formed an attack on the profound entrances. This was a form of destruction to the meridians. Not long after, Lin Muyu felt an intense pain in her meridians, as if they were about to be torn apart. However, at this moment, the energy dispersed by the red spider lily's essence slowly seeped into her body and fused with her blood vessels. It produced an extremely clear feeling that continuously alleviated the intense pain. It even seemed to strengthen the endurance of her meridians. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She hurriedly circulated her mental cultivation method and used all her strength to attack the 12th wave. The waves in her body surged violently, as if her entire body was about to explode. The water in the pool also surged violently. Finally, with a "pu" sound, a wave of air rushed into the sky. This was the result of the turbid aura being extracted. Lin Muyu lay quietly in the pool. She opened her faint golden eyes and looked at the starry sky. The red spider lily's essence in front of her chest was still emitting energy. Success! With the help of the red spider lily's essence, she actually broke through the profound entrances in one go. In her chi sea, 12 divine waves were surging and surging. The divine power of the 12th layer of the heavenly abode had been successfully cultivated. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She didn't think too much about it and immediately entered cultivation again to attack the 13th wave. Her opponent was simply too strong. Yang Li was a peak stage divine king, a super expert with 57 layers of waves. Her mere 12th layer of waves wasn't even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. In these 15 days, she had to make some progress. At the very least, she couldn't waste the red spider lily's essence that the 7 luminaries demon emperor and Xiao had given her. Just like that, time passed day by day. With the help of the red spider lily's essence, Lin Muyu broke through the 12th wave on the first day. However, the 13th wave's cultivation took him 3 whole days. After that, he used 5 days to break through the 14th wave. The 15th wave was a small watershed, and the red spider lily's essence was about to be used up. There was only a fingertip left. Lin Muyu had failed to break through the 15th wave after more than 10 attempts. She had just stepped into the god realm, and her body was undergoing slight changes. Her newly born body was still unable to withstand such a strong impact. Even her mouth and nose were bleeding, and strands of blood seeped into the depths of the pool. As the sun rose and set, Lin Muyu calculated the time. There was only 1 day left before the Empire and the demon race's martial arts competition. She had to break through the 15th layer of the heavenly abode today. Waves rose and fell within her body, and very soon, Lin Muyu gathered a total of 15 waves. Boom, 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 the waves in her body surged into the sky, constantly crashing against the profound entrance. However, the profound entrance was like an iron wall. Lin Muyu had already realized that her attempt to break through this time had failed again. However, at this moment, the water at the bottom of the cold pool suddenly surged, and there seemed to be a low, angry roar of a ferocious beast. A pair of azure blue light flickered from a corner at the bottom of the cold pool. It was a pair of eyes that belonged to the dragon race. It was a dormant azure frost dragon, and there was no aura at all in its deep sleep. Lin Muyu didn't even sense that a behemoth was sleeping 100 meters below her. However, the impact of the soul-refining arts waves was at a critical moment. What should she do? For a moment, Lin Muyu wanted to die. It must be her blood that awakened this ferocious beast. However, she couldn't be disturbed at this time, so she could only look for help. Acatosaurus, come out! He roared. Snap, a bolt of lightning flashed in the depths of the pool, and the spatial wall was pulled open in the blink of an eye. Acatosaurus roared and pounced on its opponent. Its opponent also swam out from the depths of the pool. It was a azure frost dragon at least 10 meters long, and its size was 3 to 5 times that of Acatosaurus. It was too terrifying. Roar! The azure frost dragon opened its bloody mouth and spat out thick frost, instantly freezing the crimson crystal dragon along with the water in the lake. F***CK. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. She watched helplessly as the azure frost dragon suddenly opened its mouth and bit her naturally extended arm. Humph, one of the azure frost dragon's front teeth broke off. It was only a 2,000-year-old spirit beast. How could it eat a supreme god so easily? However, in a moment of desperation, Lin Muyu produced an inexplicable anger from the bottom of her heart, and she drove the waves of God in her body to attack. Boom! A miraculous scene happened. The waves of God that were about to fail actually succeeded. The profound gate instantly shattered, and 15 waves surged violently in her energy sea. Bang! In the depths of the pool, Acatosaurus suddenly twisted its body and broke all the ice crystals. It opened its mouth and bit the azure frost dragon's tail, directly tore off a piece of meat, and chewed happily. This guy actually started eating? The prey is not dead yet. You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.